Well, I told you one of the things that broke my brain was when James Gunn, I think, tweeted about how Zachary Levi auditioned for Star-Lord.
Yeah.
And didn't get that job, but impressed James Gunn so much that he passed that recommendation on to the guy who directed Shazam, and then got Zach Levi cast in Shazam.
Right.
Well, he was already, what's his name, though, wasn't
Fandral, yeah.
Fandral, yeah.
Yeah, but was he?
He was among the Warriors 3.
Well, I think
he was in
he probably would have auditioned for Star-Lord before Thor 2, right? Because Guardians is part of Phase 2.
It's possible.
I have no idea when they would have been auditioning
he replaced the original guy from Thor 1.
Right. Zach Levi's whole thing was he auditioned for Fandral in Thor 1. I think was either cast or was ready to be cast, and then Chuck was renewed for another season. So he had obligations on TV and had to back out of the role.
Okay.
So they had somebody fill in for him in the role of Fandral. The guy that played Fandral in Thor 1 could not play Fandral in Thor 2, so Zach Levi was then called back to replace him because he couldn't be in the role.
You see, guys, this is why he's the host.
Well, this is
he
why
doesn't have to look this shit up. He just knows this stuff. He's just like, this is
where my man crush of Zach Levi comes in. Like, I don't know this about everybody in the MCU, just specifically Zach Levi.
You could have just acted it out, but you could have just been like, no, I got it.
I'll put it on
everything.
record that, I have a man crush on Zach Levi. That's completely out in the open. Add him to the list with JT and certain other people, but he's on there.
I mean, that's fair. Every guy's got a secret man crush.
That's what I mean. I don't know if it's secret.
I mean, mine is, but...
Well, do you want to put your secret man crush on record?
I'll give you each one guess.
Any hints?
All right, well, I'll give you one hint, and then I'm going to grab a drink.
Okay, let us stew on it.
We just reviewed a movie with him in it. Stew on it. I can't hear you, so...
So, what did we just review? Dune? Who's in Dune?
Timothy Chalamet.
yeah. Make the youngest one the one he's after.
the one who's most like F-boy looking.
Yeah.
No. I heard what that is. No. Timothy Chalamet is not the correct answer to this question.
Oscar Isaacs.
Oh, he's too short.
Oscar Isaac is too short?
Yeah, he's like.
Are we even on the right track with Dune?
Aqua Bro.
There you go.
Momoa's number one for you. Secret man crush list.
Yeah,
it's not
Jason
so secret
Momoa.
anymore.
If I was gonna, it's not so secret. On the 1 in 10 billion chance that I would go dude, he would be at the top of that list.
All right, not bad. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, he's got. Wait, hold on. I have to. When he has a beard. When he's clean shaven, no, he can. No, doesn't work. Doesn't work anymore if he's shaven.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Brian and Super Friends. I'm your host, Brian Labick. Joining me for this episode is someone that got here almost as fast as the Flash, Macquarie, Andy Stolz.
What's up, podcast people?
Someone that's got finger guns to rival Kingos, Josh Zorch.
Always in the holster, ready to go.
And finally, we got someone that will bitch slap you harder than Gilgamesh, Mike Bradley.
I was hoping you were going to make me Gilgamesh.
Wish fulfilled.
Yes.
I think we've already named your favorite Eternal, have we?
No.
Good recovery.
We didn't throw out the spoiler warning yet, so no.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true. That's a spoiler. We got to hold that.
All right, so we got another movie review for you this week. This time we're going to be covering the latest Marvel movie, which is The Eternals. This is the, I think, 25th, if my count is correct, Marvel movie for the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I think it's 26, actually.
This is number 26?
I thought Far From Home was 23, which would
I
make
think
this
he's
26.
right. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah, maybe I missed Shang-Chi. That might be right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
They're happening too fast now. We're
I know. They're every
It's
2
packed
months.
in
I'm
there.
losing track very quickly. And plus we get Eternals this month, and Spider-Man is already next month. So there's not a long wait for the next one. Of course, I guess we get like a 5-month or 6-month gap after Spider-Man. I think Doctor Strange
Do
got
we?
moved to May,
yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. It was supposed to be like February, wasn't it?
March.
Or March.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was only supposed to be a short. Now we get a long gap again. I'm used to that gap.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask you guys, like, are you ready for a little bit of a break, or are you still wishing we
Yeah.
had like every 2 or 3 months for a Marvel movie? Like, are you going to welcome this to catch
I
up
feel
on
like it's
some
all
other
happening
stuff?
so fast right now, and there's so many threads they're opening up, and it feels like it's just going in so many different directions.
Oh, especially with
all
all the
different
TV
little
stuff.
story threads. Yeah, like I'm okay with a 5-month gap and catching up and starting to piece things together in my brain.
Well, I guess we will have Hawkeye to hold us over too. Hawkeye's this month too. Well, Hawkeye's in between Eternals and Spider-Man,
And then
so we got that to worry about
They
too.
haven't announced any other official series release dates after Hawkeye yet, have they?
Not that
They're
I've
doing
seen.
that this
I thought Miss
week,
Marvel
right?
was.
Did they give us a
Did-
date?
They said I thought it when I had seen it. It said holiday 2021. They didn't. I thought
Yeah.
like it said something like winter 2021 or something like that. Like,
See, I don't even think I realized that was the one that was up next. And Andy, I think to your point. I think we get at the time we're recording this. We're recording on November 11th, November 12th. Tomorrow is Disney Plus Day.
Right.
So-
and they're gonna reveal a bunch of previews and stuff, I think.
Yeah, so I'm expecting some announcements tomorrow. So maybe we will get some definitive release dates on like what's coming to Disney Plus. I don't know if they'll go as far as tell you over the next year or just the next couple months or something, and who knows, that maybe that's something we'll try to cover. But at the very least, I will be posting about announcements that I catch. So keep an eye out for the socials for all that kind of stuff.
So it still looks like the Miss Marvel will be next after Hawkeye.
Because we have like Armor Wars is coming, Secret Wars is coming.
But it looks like
Or
early
Secret Invasion, Secret
2022
Invasion, not
right
Secret
now.
Wars.
So Miss Marvel's a show?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be the not Captain Marvel, but Miss Marvel. That's going to be Kamala Khan.
Right. The
So-
stretchy
Yes.
lady.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it's looking like early 2022 now.
Live
is the
action?
latest update they gave. Yes, they have the whole cast and all that. You can look up. It's pretty cool.
Okay.
Looks pretty solid.
I feel like we probably talked about it at one point, but it's been so a while now, and now we've gotten sidetracked with all these other movie releases and shows that I kind of forgot all about it.
Yeah.
I don't think we talked about it since they announced cast
Right.
or anything. Like I feel like we just tangentially mentioned it because they announced it was happening. But
Yeah.
I mean, since they announced like the Marvels being a movie that this character is going to be a part of,
Right.
like that's kind of cool that we're going to get continuation at least.
Andy,
So
back
what you were
to
saying,
I was going to say, but just back to the question: Are you looking for a bit of a break, or are you?
I like a little bit. I was just gonna try to segue
Okay.
into that.
Good job.
I like a little bit of digestion time on my movies and shows and stuff, and I haven't caught up to any of the Disney Plus shows yet. And I feel like I'm already like inundated with all these movies,
Yeah.
So like, I feel like if I went like really into it and started watching the shows, I'd be like, damn it, it's too much.
Are you gonna use this time to catch up on the shows, or you still feel overwhelmed?
I'm not sure.
So far, at least, the shows have not intertwined enough that you've missed anything. Like, it will not hurt to watch them after. Basically, I don't think it yet.
Yeah, I feel
Until we
as
get
if
to Far From Home, or it's not Far
Right.
From Home.
I
It's
feel
No Way
like-
Home.
the last 3 Marvel movies have been sort of like more one-offies.
Yeah.
And then I think
Yeah.
they're going to start connecting things back again,
Right.
So, and that's where I'm going to be like, alert, danger, danger.
Have you been watching Lost in Space too?
No, but I did see your post.
Oh, did that come
maybe
out?
It was on my brain.
Nice.
Season 3 is next month. I'm excited.
I watched season 1. I haven't got to 2 yet.
Yeah, it's really good. Little sly plug for Lost in Space. Check it out on Netflix. It's really cool. Josh, how do you feel about a break? You ready for a break? You just want another movie, or what do you think?
I mean, I'm on record of going so back and forth to this. Like pre-pandemic, I remember going on record and saying like, give us some breathing room, and like, because they had gotten to the point where it was like every like 4 months. They got into like the 3 a year slate, late there in like 2017, 2018, and I mean 2019 was packed.
Right.
Because we had Marvel in March, in Endgame at the end of April.
Black
I think,
Panther
and
before
then,
that too.
Oh, in 2018, yeah. Like it was
like
very very congested. So
Oh, you're talking. Yeah, man.
um,
I'm getting my ears fucked up.
but oh no, it's all right. But so I remember saying that initially, and then once the hose got pinched for so long, I think
It's a good
I think
analogy.
yeah, like I think initially I'm okay with it, but I'm with Andy on the mark that now if we're gonna have a movie every other month, in this case between Eternals and Spider-Man, like 7 weeks, plus you're giving me television and online content, yeah, let's take a breath for a minute. We've gotten a hell of a lot of stuff since July.
Right.
And it really hasn't slowed down. I mean, you figure since January, we hit Wanda. We had like a week or two break, went right into Falcon Winter Soldier. Maybe had a couple of weeks break, went right into Loki. That was ending right when Black Widow hit. Then we got What If, Shang-Chi before that even finished. Now this, then Hawkeye, then... So 2021 has given us a lot of what we needed. And it helped us get through this year, gave us content, gave us something to stay home and watch when we needed to, all of that stuff. But as we kind of get back to normal, maybe a little bit, just taking it easy, yeah, I think that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Marvel knows what they're doing. There's no shortage of content. There's no lulls. They know how to keep you talking for the majority of the year for everything they're putting out. All right, so for Eternals, let's go over a little bit about the cast and some of the ratings and money and stuff like that. So Eternals is directed by Chloe Zhao, screenplay by Chloe Zhao, Patrick Burleigh, Ryan Firpo, and Kaz Firpo. The movie stars Gemma Chan as Cersei, Richard Madden as Icarus, Angelina Jolie as Thena, Selma Hayek as Ajak, Kumail Nanjiani as Kingo, Leah McHugh as Sprite, Brian Tyree Henry as, is it Phasos or Passos? I can't remember. Does anybody remember how to say his name?
What?
Fastos.
Which one?
Isn't it?
Fastos?
Hephaestus.
Okay.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like a play on Hephaestus.
Okay. Lauren Ridloff as Macarai, Barry Keoghan as Druig, Madan Soik as Gilgamesh, Kit Harington as Dane Whitman, and probably one of my personal favorites, Harish Patel as Kuran. Box office for the movie so far, it has made $81 million domestic. International, it has made $90 million, which brings the worldwide total to $171 million, which, and maybe I'll just mention on the show because we were talking about it beforehand. We looked at the domestic box office to see where some of these movies lie, to see where Eternals stacks up compared to everything else that's come out this year. Right now, Eternals is at number 12 for domestic box office for 2021. Now, this is only after its first week of release. So we're right on the cusp of second week. It's probably going to, I would think, crack the top 10 after week number 2. So we could always revisit that and double check it. The only Marvel movie that is in the top 10 right now, or no, I'm sorry. Marvel has 2 movies in the top 10. Shang-Chi is number 1 right now, $224 million. Black Widow's at number 3, $138 million. Or sorry, $183 million. I can't math. And of course, we have to mention, even because it's going to irritate every single fucking one of us, number 2 for domestic of 2021 right now is fucking Venom 2. The movies that just won't die and somehow continue to make goddamn money for everything and Sony and all that shit, but
He who must not be named.
yeah, pretty much.
I mean,
so
it's not MCU, but Marvel has.
That's true.
Properties have the top 3.
Yeah. Marvel's still a hot property.
So, are we allowed to like spoil Carnage stuff?
Let's not.
Okay, never mind then. I have nothing to say about this.
I mean, I feel like it's worth teasing that there's an implication for Venom
It's about
with
the implication.
certain things, but like you could look it up if you want to. We're not going to spoil it here, but
Yes.
This is not the last we've seen of Venom, I don't think.
I've not seen the movie, but I've seen other stuff.
That's the only thing worth seeing in the movie is the end credit scene. So find the bootleg end credit scene online and watch it. Don't give this movie any more money.
I think the one I saw was in Russian too, with subtitles. It was like the day of, and it was so horribly like bootlegged. But yeah,
Sounds about right.
you're not wrong about the bootleg.
Ratings right now, Rotten Tomato has it as a critic rating of 48% and an audience rating of 80%. Metacritic has a Metascore of 52, user score of 6.6. Honestly, the reviews are lower than I thought they were, or at least maybe than I expected them to be. Which I guess when we get into more specific thoughts for us, we can see if we agree or disagree with some of that stuff. But just sort of going around the horn, some general non-spoiler thoughts before we get to the spoiler section. Andy, what did you think of the movie?
It wasn't my favorite MCU movie, but it wasn't my least favorite either. I would probably put it like somewhere right in the middle.
Okay, so you're a little bit more in line with, I guess, the ratings that were.
Yeah, I thought it was. I thought it was longer than it probably needed to be, and it sort of fizzled and was anticlimactic.
Okay. Josh, what do you think?
I definitely want to see it again, and I knew that as soon as it was over. I enjoyed it, and I appreciated that it was very differently made and approached than probably any other MCU movie so far. It did not seem as formulaic, and not that I tend to disagree with people who go really hard on the analysis of many of the other MCU movies and say, oh, they're all the same. Here's this, the story beats and whatnot. And sometimes you can deconstruct it to that point, sure. But I think at least the approach to this, I mean, you had the challenge of being a team movie. I think we've mentioned this when it has come up in the past. Like, that's a challenge of X-Men movies. It's a challenge of the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, the first one. You're not only, here's a new thing or a new idea, here's an entirely new group of people all at once. And you're not just getting a lead and a sidekick or a significant other and a baddie and tangential people. There's like 11 characters in this movie that are all important.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really evenly well weighed. I didn't think anybody was overly neglected compared to others. I think everybody, they came around at some point to giving everybody their turn. A few could have used a little bit more time. I will agree with Andy that they might have been able to achieve that and still trim some fat in some places. And cut the run time down a bit. But I was really, I found it refreshing that just their script and her approach to presenting the story and the movie making was, like I said, just different. It was just a different change of pace, for good or for bad. I like not seeing the same thing in the same fashion every single time.
Yeah. Mike, what do you think?
I'll have to agree with Josh on liking to see that it was not the same old Marvel movie. It was definitely different. It had a different feel to it, and I think that's kind of a good thing, because even when Marvel diverged into different, genres, if you will, it still felt like a Marvel branded movie. I feel like this could stand on its own without the MCU. Other than some major plot points that are connected to the MCU. But I feel like as a movie itself, it could.
That was actually a question I was going to ask you guys, and we could sort of spin off that after your points. But if this is something you think people can see without seeing any other MCU movie.
Okay. I feel like where I'm at with it is a very positive place because I'm making a jump in my own logic. I'm using my own ability to infer some things that the movie does not directly give to you, and I feel like that's necessary to come out with a positive view. I will explain why later when we get into spoilers and such.
Okay.
And as far as the question you asked, you need some understanding of the MCU. You know, again, we're not into spoilers, so I don't want to get to why.
Right.
But you would need a little bit to understand what they're referring to for motivations of the main characters.
Okay. Andy, you think this can stand on its own, or do you think you need to see any of the other 25 movies?
They do refer to things that happen in the MCU, characters, plot points.
Like, I
big
can really
bad-
only think of, like,
big
maybe
bads even.
2 character name drops, like their fate, and obviously the big ones, like Infinity War and Endgame, like some spoilers for how
Yeah.
that story wraps, and that's largely it. Like, there's no interactions to other characters that are in the MCU that we've met already. There's largely no connection, at least I can tell, to other movies that have happened. Since this is a cast of all new characters, everybody, whether you're new to the MCU or you've seen all the other movies, are learning these characters and getting to know them the same way at the same time.
Well, I feel like if you watch Infinity War and Endgame, you get a pretty good idea of what happened up to that point because of how well those movies are made.
Right.
You know, you don't know all the little details and specifics, but you have the whole overarching universe. You've got a pretty good idea of what's going on.
Yeah, I guess if you had to streamline it, you could probably do Infinity War Endgame and then just go straight into this if you wanted to.
Yeah.
I even still think you could probably watch this by itself and still be fine. Like, if you were brand new to the Marvel movies and you just want to pick one and be like, you know what, I kind of want to see what this Eternals is about, people are talking about it, I think you'd be fine.
You could learn the other stuff later.
Yeah.
I think knowing the other stuff adds to the lore of the of Eternals.
Oh, for sure. Yes.
But I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah, I think ideally, if someone comes into the MCU new and this is the first one they watch, if it piques their interest, it will entice them to go back and watch the other movies.
Right.
But I also think, after 25 movies, you almost think that you need to know some of those stories to continue. And, Shang-Chi kind of largely stands alone too, but
Yep.
I still think you benefit more with that movie having seen other movies before that. Like, I don't think I'd pick every movie. I think you could definitely pick a couple, like a streamlined way to get into Shang-Chi before you got there. But I do think that there's a handful of movies that you might want to watch before Shang-Chi. Eternals, I think you could just go in this one and be fine.
Maybe Doctor Strange for Shang-Chi?
More or less, yeah. I think just some side characters would benefit from at least that movie before Shang-Chi. Yes. But yeah, I mean, as far as Eternals, I really liked it. I might be the only one I think out of the group that saw it twice.
Already?
Do you think? Yeah, I went Friday and Saturday actually.
Okay.
But I did enjoy it the second time around more. And I think going through, I think it held my attention enough the first time, trying to unravel the story and what they're setting up, and the few twists that happen, I enjoyed the first time. I liked them much better the second time, knowing the way the story is going to play out. I think that helps keep your eye on certain people and motivations and what characters are doing and how the story unfolds and stuff like that. I think it works better knowing some of the mysteries and the twists. But yeah, I think visually it's one of the best looking Marvel movies we've seen. And I think that's a high praise considering we've had 25 other movies. And there's something about the fight scenes. Like, you'd think 25 movies in, like, by the time you get to the action set pieces, you're like, oh, okay, they're just doing the Marvel thing. Like, they still find a way to make them feel fresh and different for me, that I was invested every time the action kicked in. I'm like, all right, what are we going to see now? Let's see how they do this. And I don't know, there's a way the action is directed, I think, in this that makes it feel a little bit more up close and personal without doing all the shit that I hate, which is the shaky cam and quick edits and cuts and all that stuff. Like, they somehow put this camera right next to these characters as they're fighting, and you don't feel like you're getting a headache. And I can appreciate stuff like that. All right. Any other sort of general thoughts that we want to spin out to before we dive into spoilers?
I
Nothing?
kind of thought
Okay.
that it was sort of similar to Shang-Chi as how they exposed the story, how the story exposure
Yeah.
to the viewer happened.
With some of the
How you kept
flashbacks
getting,
and type of thing.
how the story's rolling, you get a flashback to patch this spot, you get a flashback to patch that spot, you get a little bit of character deposition with this, and how it rolled. I thought it was similar, sorta, to
Yeah.
Shang-Chi. Not like exactly like it or anything like that, but I thought it shared that aspect of its storytelling.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't actually think about that comparison, but that's a good point. All right, so we will use this point to spin into spoilers. When we discuss the movie, the way we've been doing it recently is we try to do 3 categories. We'll have direction and story, characters and actors, and then whatever else we want to fit in for the movie. Sorry, I punched my microphone. And then we'll wrap up with some thoughts for the end credit stuff after all of that. So we'll try to save the end credit stuff that might be something you guys are really looking forward to hearing about us talk about. That'll be how we wrap up at the end. So again, before we dive in, I'm going to throw out the spoiler alert. So if you have not seen Eternals and do not want spoiled, pause this now, come back after seeing the movie, and you can consider this your last warning. From this point on, all plot points and spoiler details are fair game.
What was that? Alert! Spoiler!
You just gave us a new spoiler alert that I can try to use. I'm making a note. New alert.
It wasn't that good.
I don't care. It'll throw people for a loop because they're going to expect the regular one, and we're going to hit them with something new. All right, so we have 3 categories. I have 3 people joining me, so you guys each get to pick a category. Or no, that doesn't make any sense. That's not going to help us at all. I don't know what I'm thinking. Either way, Josh, where do you want to go first?
I mean, it sounded right. But
Yeah, in my head, I was like, well, there's 3. We have 3 categories, but it's like, really, by the time we get to the third person, there's only 1 left, so you can't choose shit. So we're just rolling with
and
whatever
if you're
you want.
third, you're fucked.
Yeah.
So I guess whichever of them includes story. That's
Okay,
what we'll
direction
do.
and story. We'll go there.
Direction and story. I did not see. So we'll start by saying I have not seen any other of Chloe's movies. I did not see. Was it Nomadland? Was what she just won the
I think
Oscar
that was
for?
Yeah, that was the big award-winning one.
Mm-hmm. And she was obviously. She probably had already most of this movie made, at least principal photography done before that movie was even released, or definitely won the awards and whatnot. Because remember, Eternals was originally supposed to be out in November of 2020. Was the original schedule.
Yeah.
So they, late 2019, early 2020, they might have already been in pre-production or principal photography. So she was already given the job and might have already been, doing this before the accolades for that were coming in and whatnot. I haven't seen any of her other work, and I'm just kind of skimming it real quick to make sure that's true, and I believe it is. Listening to her talk, I remember her speech for accepting her Oscar and interviews around that time and whatnot. She absolutely comes off as a bona fide, in the weeds, like academic, artful filmmaker. Not just, I know how to do action sequences and I'm an action movie director. I know how to do comedy and I do this. She really talks about it as though I'm a filmmaker and whatever I'm deciding to create, I'm going to step into those shoes. So that all said, I think I was impressed, to use your word from earlier, fresh. The look of the movie, her approval of certain cinematography choices, the feel of it, the pacing. Again, she's a co-writer on the story and the screenplay, so she has her hands in all of that crafting. I really dug it. The editing process, the story writing process, as I said earlier, it is hard to introduce, especially not just make a team movie or an ensemble movie. It's difficult to balance and weigh everything so that you're covering all your bases. You're trying to do your best to make sure that, out of a team of 10, you don't just have 2 leads and everyone else is just there. There's not a whole lot that I could really chip apart from her in that regard, I think.
Yeah.
Story-wise, I definitely agree with what Andy said. I liked the choice of the back and forth, past and present storytelling. I didn't see the reveal of Icarus being, I don't even call him a bad guy, and I'll spin off to that in a second, but like I didn't see that part of it coming at all. And I like that you get this like catalyst moment of the plot of the team finding Selma Hayek, and then that springboards a lot of it forward, and then they come back to, okay, what actually occurred from there, and now we're catching up to it and going forward from that point. What I liked about this, and I forget if it was a different MCU movie that we reviewed that I described this way, but or if it's just another film, I like that there's, in my mind, there's not really a bad guy per se.
Yeah.
The way I frame it, there's not a big bad, and there's not like a, okay, one and done, and it's a gone thing. And what was happening here was you were sort of positioned by thinking that there's something, quote, something behind the source of the deviants. And the deviants are the challenge, and what is going to be revealed, and what are they going to have to face and whatnot. Between them and their disagreement with the Celestials, and then Icarus's choices, really the antagonist is just the presence of conflict.
Okay.
Right, and that's how I think about it. It's choices made, but it's not, world domination, universal domination. They're not trying to stop a big thing from. They disagree with the Celestials. Icarus disagrees with them. The deviants were put in a position by the Celestials, and now they have their own reasons and motivations, but nobody is inherently the evil.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And I liked that. I think there's a richness to there that can be discovered, and it you can do a bit more with it when the black and white of, the Dark Elves or Thanos or, Ironmonger are taken out of the equation.
I mean, I think Icarus's storyline and his motivations and character was one of the most interesting things in the movie for me. And that was the thing I think I appreciated the second time around, is like, I think the way the story is set up the first viewing, like I sort of figured that there was someone on the team that was somehow fucking everything up. I would not have pegged him as that person. So that twist worked for me. And then watching it the second time and knowing the whole time that he's playing the team the whole time. But at the same time, still trying wholeheartedly to protect everybody. Like,
agreed. He thinks he's doing the correct positive thing.
Right. Like, I dug all of that. And I think he is one of the most interesting characters in the movie. And I would like to see more from him. The question that I have coming out of it is, did he kill himself?
Yes.
Yeah,
I
So
would
that's-
say 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the story of Icarus in legend, is that Icarus flew too close to the sun.
Well, I mean,
and
these
his
things are
wings
gods, so I don't know if he
were
can just hang out in the
destroyed.
sun and just hang out and be like, all right, I'm back, bitches, what's up?
They're not gods. It shows them very clearly being mortals in this movie.
Oh, fair, okay.
They just don't die unless they're mortally injured.
Okay.
He can't fly into the sun and survive.
Okay. That was a question I had, but at least that's definitively answered now. But yeah, and to that point, I think I would have liked to have seen more from him. Like, I'd like to see him come back in a sequel or something, but If he's dead, then we're probably gonna see him again.
Mm-mm.
If
Well,
they
the only
did it-
thing with that is he could be remade by the Celestials.
Well, true. Yeah.
Because he was a synthetic being.
Yeah.
So
Andy, what you got?
I was gonna say if they wrote it correctly, they could probably do like a prequel with him in it.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah, they existed for 5,000 years or something. So
Right.
there's a lot of time to
Yep.
play with.
Personally, for me, like I think that I felt that the Icarus stuff was kind of telegraphed.
Okay.
A bit like I felt like they focused on it too much for it to be a big twist for me. Where like they were like too many times they came back to like what happened when you left and what was this and what was that, and to me it just became obvious like, oh, he's gonna turn on them.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, he's the one that's overpowering. You know what I mean? Like, he's the most powerful. He's the one that would be the biggest threat. Some shit happened that we don't have an explanation for. That means he's going to turn on. Because that's just the way things go. That's the way stories work. If it was the weakest of them that turned on them, it wouldn't be much of a story. Because there wouldn't, you know what I mean? There wouldn't be much conflict there.
Right.
So I liked what they did there, and I guess this falls under story for me, and this is the leap that I would like to talk about that I had to make in order to like the film in the first place. The first half of this movie, I don't want to put it too harshly if it wasn't intentional. Because if it's not intentional, I feel like the movie goes way down in my opinion. If it's an intentional choice that the first half of the movie, the acting was awful and wooden, and they felt like they weren't human, and that toward the second half of the movie, they start to connect more with humanity, and they start to seem more human by the end of the film. If that's an intentional arc that we're seeing, I think that's really, really well done. Because I feel like the first half of that movie, a lot of what we see, like their interactions with people, their interactions with each other seem normal, but their interactions with humans, I don't know. So much of it, the acting felt almost intentionally lackluster to me.
Where,
And
I never got that
do
impression.
Do you recall where the story, like demarcation point was, where that changed? Just to help us.
I think when they
understand.
introduce you to Festus's family, and they start showing him interacting like as a family, and the fact that like when they all split up, I can't remember because of how many flashbacks and shit there were. I don't remember the way they ordered them, but like I feel like it was at that moment when they're in Tenochtitlan, or however the hell that's said. They're at the pyramid in Chichen Itza, is where they're at. And
So you can say
they're there.
Chichen Itza, but you can't say it.
I can say Chichen Itza because that one's easy. The other one, I don't think I've ever heard pronounced correctly. So, but anyways,
I don't know if it's correct, but I've heard it pronounced Tenectalon.
sure, they're there, and they have that moment where they split up. And I feel like at that moment, some of them are starting to connect more with humanity than with their purpose that they don't understand or know about yet. So they're starting to connect more and become more human themselves. But I don't remember when they show that part. I feel like that's when they're intended to in the story. You know what I mean? In time within the story, connect more with human beings and become more human themselves.
I think it's half and half. Half of them do connect with humans, and half of them sort of just live lives
Right.
of solace.
Right.
So
yeah, like,
I think with the type of, I don't know if you would call them humans, but the type of species that they are, it's difficult to connect to people because you really don't have a ton in common with them.
right.
And the fact that, well, they haven't seen each other in, what did they say, thousands of years?
Yeah,
I think it was
some
different
of
for
them.
each, like some of the different members. Like some of them had seen each other more recently, but it had been since that moment at whatever time that was that they had seen each other, that when they split. but others had like been more in contact.
Right. Well, I'm thinking that maybe it was a directional choice to have them sort of like stoic, like you said, or
Right.
wooden, I think you called it.
Well, that's what I mean. If it's intentional, it's a stoic choice. It's them choosing. I mean, it's the director
Right.
telling them what to do. If it's just bad acting, then it's wooden.
I think
So
it
it's a matter
probably
of, you know.
has to do with the fact that they were basically a lot of them were quarantined for however many thousands of years, and then they just like don't start talking to people normally immediately afterwards, you know.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I mean. Is it's like it's a growth of their character through thousands of years of being these people that they're basically gods, like what Brian says, as far as they know. You know, and as far as they understood throughout all this time, the only one that could actually harm them was one of their own. Because we see Thena harm them, but we don't see them get harmed by anybody else.
I think like
So,
I guess like thinking of just like the emotion of it and like what they portray. Like when they first come out of their little cocoons or whatever, and they put the armor on and they talk to each other on the ship. To your point, yes, there's like nothing there. Like they're just waking up. They don't know how to act. And then I feel like there's even some lines of dialogue somewhere where they're even unsure if they are made to be capable to feel.
right.
So yeah, I could get that they're discovering how to interact with humans as they're evolving, I guess, over the years. I could see that, yeah.
And that's the part of it that makes me love the storyline. Is because, you know, if we assume that that's what's happening, is that these people are growing, or, well, these beings are growing more human throughout thousands of years because they, you know, some of them at least see the best in human beings and others see the worst.
Yeah.
And it shows that divergence between those that see the best, those that see the worst, those that see the potential, those that see the destruction. And it's, to me, that's a beautiful story to tell. And again, if it's not intentional, you know, I feel like that's the story we're getting. I just like to make note that they don't get heavy-handed with it and tell you directly that's what's happening.
Yeah. I mean, I do think it's
intentional. If it is
intentional.
indeed intentional,
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful.
My vote would be
Which
intentional.
is my assumption. Yeah, that's my vote too. I just like to preface that because I could see where, you know, you see a lot of negative reviews out there of it, and I could see some people maybe misunderstanding what's happening there and just taking that as, oh, this is, what are they doing? This is boring.
I guess to
You
be
know, and
clear,
not
like
getting it.
I like we mentioned the ratings and stuff, like, and the ratings for the movie are kind of middle of the road for places. I never actually dove down the rabbit hole to see why people are reviewing it badly, like what
Same,
people's
I don't.
issues with it were. So I don't really know how to like counterpoint that. Like if somebody said this is bad and this is why, I guess I really don't have anything to combat that. But, Andy, you got anything for direction story you want to chime in with?
I suppose I was let down by the idea, I guess, of Arishem creating both them and the Deviants.
Okay.
Because you're sort of drawn to the conclusion at the beginning of the movie that the Deviants were like the big bad
Right.
of the movie, or the antagonist, as Josh was saying. And when you sort of find out that they were made by the people that that they were made both by Arishem, it sort of, I don't know, I was a little disappointed in that. And then I feel like as soon as that exposition was made, that they stopped leaning on the Deviants really as any sort of like threat.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, because well, at that point we learned that the celestial that they are trying to birth is in the Earth.
Right, and then at that point, I feel like they were just like, "Yeah, deviants, you're off the hook." And then like the final deviant that sucked the energy out of the other two Eternals has like that final battle with Thena,
Right.
which, cool as though it was, it just seemed like you forgot all about them for, I don't know, almost an hour,
Yeah.
and then it was like, "Oh shit, here he is." I didn't care for that aspect of it.
I kind of wish they hadn't killed it. Like, I kind of wish Thena had not killed it and they had kind of parted ways and left it out there as its own being to continue on a story thread of some sort.
I really kind of thought that it was going to join forces with them to stop just for its own existence. Its own existence's sake, it would also die in the emergence, right?
Yeah. And to be clear, that was Bill Skarsgård that was doing that voice, right? That is what he was doing.
That
I
was the
didn't see in the
conclusion I
credits.
came to.
Okay.
I mean, he's listed in the cast as playing Crow, K-R-O. So, but I don't remember if the Deviant ever had a name.
Same. That's why I was confused. Is because I don't remember meeting a character named Crow or...
And I didn't know if it was just a voice for that little bit that you get, or if he was also doing like some mocap at some points.
Right. I would have liked a little bit more story as to why it can suck energy and manipulate itself to be like them. I know, like, the old evolution thing, like, he created the Eternals not to be able to evolve, and the Deviants to be able to evolve, but that doesn't explain why it can evolve off of them.
And why it's the only one that...
Right,
And
yeah.
it can evolve its other deviants. And...
Right, I didn't really get that, and they also didn't explain how after Cersei... I made a leap here trying to figure it out, but why Cersei was able to heal herself after she changed Tiamat to, I'm assuming, marble or ice or whatever she turned him to. They didn't really explain how she healed herself, but I'm just assuming because she's still riding high off of the
Extra
what do they call
cosmic
it?
power or
the
whatever.
brain meld thing. and
Unimind. The
emergence.
Unimind.
Unimind, sorry.
Unimind, yeah.
Yeah, and then it was able to change Sprite to human and heal herself
See,
and all that jazz.
and that's something that gave me a big issue. Was she's like, oh, well, Sprite, I can make you into a normal human little girl. As opposed to, oh, Sprite, I can make you into an eternal being that just happens to not look like a little girl, but look like an adult, and you can... I didn't understand
that's
why
right.
she's like, I'm going to make you a mortal little child. Like, I'm just going to remove your immortality instead of just remove the childhood part and make you an adult. I didn't understand
I
that.
can transubstantiate you, but
Yeah,
I can't
and she didn't even-
age you.
She didn't even offer it to Festus.
I feel like it's more just like a practical, like, hey, we have a young actress.
Oh, I get what
How
you're
do
saying.
we account for her growing older for a being that's supposed to be eternal and not age?
Oh,
Let's just take away that part of it so she can now age properly and we can explain it away in the story.
but you would think that, like, he had a husband and a son, like, he would want to grow old and see his, like, he would want to be with them, like...
Well, I think that's
spirit
the
Mortally,
that's the
right.
trade-off that's the whole reason none of them started families, because they didn't want to go through that knowing that they were going to outlast their children.
Well, she
This
didn't
is
even
the
give him
story
the
of
option
Arwen.
to do that, you know?
Like,
Yeah, I guess to that point I could see that, but I guess I'm thinking it more like he's already made that choice, like he knows what he signed up for, and this is just
But-
part of the sacrifice
signed
of
up
it.
for that
Right
long
then,
before they-
he had an opportunity that he probably didn't ever think he was going to get, and he, like, she didn't even, like, offer it to him.
Yeah. I was thinking about even the deviant thing, like the evolution of the deviants, and I'm spinning it the other way, where you were talking about how the Eternals might not, like, they were crafted not to really evolve, but the deviants were crafted to evolve. I think after thousands and thousands of years of the deviants being killed by Eternals, that one evolved to a point where it can actually stand up against the Eternals.
but would it continue to evolve while it was frozen in ice?
Unless it evolved to a point when it, like, right, it got to that point and then got frozen. I
Right.
don't know.
No, I hear you. It was just one of those things that just didn't add up.
I still think there's a chunk of
100%.
time, like you said, where Icarus goes away. Like, there's a couple years,
yeah.
I think, that are unaccounted for.
I thought it was hundreds of years. But
I
Even
thought-
still.
I thought it was
So-
thousands, honestly.
Is he
yeah, like it's
almost getting, like, you know, if they wanted to fill in story gaps, and just this is me spitballing, there's nothing that tells me this, but you could fill in that gap with him somehow getting the deviants to a point where they become that big of a threat, and it's something they have to worry about then.
I was wondering if he had recruited them to that little ice crater himself.
Yeah,
Not
like
like
his,
recruited them,
I
but like
quote unquote tracked them and saw them
herded-
come out of the ice. Like he could
herded
have,
them,
yeah,
herded them there, and then sort of like, practiced on them and had them practice
Right.
on him or whatever. Or
So if he's
sparred.
I feel
sparring
like
with a
that makes him
deviant for a
way
while.
much more devious than they lead him to be.
Like I said, that's me spitballing. That's,
He would have to be really evil to be like, I'm gonna train these fuckers to kill Ajax. Like,
If he was as powerful as he says he was, or they say he was, he should have been able to demolish all of those deviants as soon as he found them.
right. But
I
he
think it
didn't-
was
he-
more of making a point to Ajax that he brought her there. Well, I mean, he intended to kill her. I think at that point, anyways.
Well, he's also, I feel like, not trying to kill them half the time. I think he's only trying to protect his friends.
Yeah,
He's not part of the mission, like exterminate the deviants. He knows that they have to just basically keep the Earth
Last.
safe so that the
Yeah.
Eternal can be born.
Run out the
That's
clock.
his mission.
yeah.
The deviants are a side story that are
Celestial.
yeah,
said
sorry,
Eternal.
yeah, sorry. But yeah, the deviants are just the side story. Like they're the distraction. They're there to occupy the team, but he still cares for the team, so he doesn't really want anyone to die. So he's just, it's the I see it as the Civil War fight between Hawkeye and Black Widow. That they're
Yeah,
just
they're sparring.
right. Just abiding time until the next thing. And I mean with the Celestial, like, now being frozen in the ocean, like that's something you can't ignore, right? Like that's something that needs to be addressed in the MCU proper.
Well, and it happens in. So we're not into the end credits when this happens. This is the very end of the movie, and I'm not going to parse any words here. Okay, when the Celestial splits the clouds and the sky to speak with Cersei, I went from 6 to midnight thinking about Galactus.
I
That
did the
was-
same thing.
Even though
That
we had
was
seen
just
him
like,
a couple
oh
times
my
already, I did the
God.
same thing.
That just, dude,
I think
that
I
is
said
setting
to,
up Galactus so fucking hard that I just can't
I
forget. Like, I can't wait.
I was blue balling myself, I think, through the movie. Like I turned to Josh at one point and said, like, would they actually do Galactus? And he's like, no, I don't think they would.
At least like
Like,
not
every
this early,
time-
not here. Yeah.
Every time they cut to Aramis and he's like the big head in space, I turned to Josh like, oh, Galactus. And I looked back and I'm like, no, fuck, it's that dude again. And every time.
It's the same one.
Yeah.
Right. But with the way they show that everything, if you haven't seen this and you're listening to this is what Galactus will look like in the MCU someday.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's gonna happen, and I feel like this was a fucking test run.
They've successfully
That-
crafted big spaceman.
Getting
yeah,
that's
getting
the
you
size of
over that
planets.
initial
And
hurdle.
the moment of him looking down through the clouds, as well as when we get the outside shot of like the Celestial next to Earth.
Right.
We get both shots here. You get what he would look like if you're standing on Earth, and you get the shot from space of what it would look like next to. It's amazing.
Yeah, I agree.
And
But I mean, even to your point too, like
Oh.
to those two events, like there is a dead Celestial in the middle of the ocean now, and the whole planet presumably witnessed this dude just flying up there, stealing some people and
how
talking.
could the planet not?
Right. So like that's very big implications for the MCU. So as much as I think you can see this movie on its own, how this spins off after this, the implications for the MCU as a whole are huge.
Well, and I think there's a few things there. One, people individually might not notice that he stole people. They may have no
True,
idea that
right.
he actually took Celestials. But the MCU as itself, the way the Earth is, they just experienced a being put on a glove and snap its fingers and erase half of existence.
Right.
Now, this is supposed to be how many years after that?
Like, still like 5 to 6.
Yeah.
5, 6-ish, something like that. Now there's a giant motherfucker in the sky. I don't know any other way that they like. If you're seeing that, you're like, "What the fuck is that?" Even after the snap, this moment for a normal, everyday person in the MCU, your mind is just like,
I had the thought of like, it's someone that like lives in a city that like just even in the Marvel universe, like New York City, all kinds of shit happens in New York City. How much happens before you're like, well, I got to move out of New York? But now, like, so much has happened to the Earth. Like, you can't just be like, oh, I'm going to go to Mars now. Like, no, that doesn't. You can't do that now in the MCU. Like, there's no space travel here. You are stuck on the Earth when all this shit is happening. You're fucked.
one place that, like, you see a lot of San Francisco and LA in Marvel.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Even just the comics or the MCU. You see a lot of New York. Go to Florida. As far as
Yeah.
I know, in the comics, there's not a whole lot that goes on in Florida.
Just retire
If you're in
there.
the MCU, just go retire.
Hang out
Yeah,
in Key West.
the whole world can just say, fuck it, we're going to Florida. And, then, of course, things will happen there.
But yeah, just
still,
the chaos will follow you.
Danger
but-
follows, yeah. Before we move off story, can I ask one point? Because I don't know if this escaped me or if it was a misstep as well. What was the correlation between the population of the Earth and the gestation of the Celestial being born within it? Because the way they portrayed it earlier in the Revelation was when the Celestial comes to be, the planet basically breaks apart and is destroyed forever. Not that
I think it's, like, consumed at the same time.
okay, so but
Like,
is
the
it-
energy's
is it
consumed
a
and-
literal sustenance type
think,
of
yeah.
Well, I think it might be
issue? 'Cause I
that
didn't get that.
like, the explosion is at the same time enough. I don't know. It's a weird thing.
I guess I presume that somehow it basically eats the people before the planet explodes.
Yeah, like, it sucks all the energy out, and then as it expands and is born, it's like breaking an egg.
Okay, I guess I could buy that, but I don't think that was clear.
So in that essence of them talking about how much energy and all that is created, I feel like that is also the gateway to Galactus, because that is what is going to draw Galactus here. They created a planet with enough energy to birth a Celestial,
Yeah,
and Galactus
it's
is
still
like,
there.
I'm hungry,
yeah.
and he just decides to find Earth because that's a lot of energy he can eat. That's a lot, I mean, that for him, that's, oh man, that's
Yeah.
a nice dinner.
That's a golden corral.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, like, that's what that's his thing.
I don't know if
You
I've
know,
ever heard
so-
Earth described as the Golden Corral.
It's the golden
Golden-
corral of the Milky Way. Let's be honest. That's as best as we can claim right now.
And Galactus is a fat guy in a wife beater with a mullet, and it's about to go down.
that fits Golden Corral. Somebody put that on the Earth
That's
poster.
why I put it that way.
Visit Earth. We're the
the
solar system's
tourism-
Golden Corral.
Yeah, the tourism pamphlet for
Right.
Earth.
To be fair, we'd give him food poisoning if it was Galactus. Okay?
All right. Anything else for direction story? Nothing else. All right. So we'll move on to characters and actors. Andy, I'll give you this one. Where do you want to start with characters and actors?
I'm going to start with Druig.
Okay.
Could not stand him. Absolutely
Love it.
hated him. Like the actor that played him, the character that he played, I didn't care for it at all.
Okay.
Just like his mannerisms, his line deliveries, his swagger or whatever. I just didn't. It didn't hit with me at all. The rest of them I thought did a pretty darn good job. I would say that I felt a little disappointed in the Icarus versus Thena fight because I feel like that could have. I wanted to see more of that,
Yeah.
and it sort of got cut short
Okay.
because I feel as though everyone kept saying how Thena's prowess was like unmatched and she was the best warrior on Olympia.
Olympia.
Yeah.
And and then they would say like, oh, Icarus is the strongest. I'm like, well, who is it? I feel like that's going to be a stand down. But I also thought that I think I went over this with the story, but the Deviant really didn't get much to do after he was like a thing.
Yeah.
And I know we had mentioned that they all sort of got a little bit of like backstory in them, but I don't think I can't remember her name, the fast lady, really got much of any
Makari.
sort of
Yeah.
backstory
Makari.
at
Supposed to
all.
be like Mercury, but
Yeah,
Makari.
she didn't really get much to do other than like read books on the ship or whatever, and that's all you really got from her, which I thought would have been cool to see what she was sort of doing. I'm assuming she was going around collecting all the artifacts based on what was
She
in the ship. But
seemed to be a kleptomaniac.
yeah,
Is like what I took from it. So she was just going around stealing shit and creating like a nice little hive to have with her
Preserving.
stuff.
yeah. I thought all the
Sure.
other actresses and actors did a pretty good job. I will say the character of Ajak, I didn't get the point of the swing. Like I didn't. They don't really show you when she decides that she's no longer going to do what Arishem wants and
Right.
sort of swings towards stopping the emergence. I would have liked to have seen when that happened.
Well-
They just sort of deal with the fact that she decided to do that, but you never really see
I feel
it.
like I feel like it's the moment that Tony makes the snap. Is the way that she describes it. Is like, you know, like some being erased half of all existence, and it was this planet that
Did something
reversed
about
that.
it and fixed it.
yeah, this is the planet that changed it. And I feel like they let her say that, and I think that's enough to be like, you know, like we do. I don't know. Do we need like the little flashback, like I am Iron Man, or you know, like
I guess I didn't put those two together.
okay.
You
I feel like
know,
that's what
I
she was
realized
saying, was
that
like-
I realized that she said that, you know, but I
Is
guess I didn't
Is it
put that into.
is it for you that it like she turned on a dime too quickly, and there wasn't, because I felt that a little bit, that I didn't see the build up to her
Right. That's yeah.
her doubt, and okay, this is the thing that pushes me over.
right.
It's like, I'm
just
going
a
to
big
cite this
thing.
one example, and
It's a pretty big example.
it is a big example, but if she is aware, as she says several times, her memory doesn't get affected like the others, so she has been
Right.
completely cognizant of what the design has been for, as she says, millions of years.
Oh yeah,
Sure.
she's helped.
One
I don't know, hundreds of Celestials come about,
right.
hundreds of emergencies.
So has there
Emergency.
been a little
Emergency.
doubt here and there, a little bit of questioning the creator and just the blind plan, et cetera, et cetera? I'm with Andy. If that is part of it, that could have been probably built out a little bit better.
Yeah, it felt like it was more of a like snap to like change of get it.
Like your little like shimmy that you did there when you snapped too. You're like really getting into it.
I get into my snapping. Hey, back off. I'm trying to think of other characters. I think Kit Harington's going to be a very good Black Knight.
Mhm.
Just based on what we saw in that. I don't know a lot about the Black Knight. I would like to know a lot about him because he seems like a really cool Marvel character, but I never really read any of his comics. But I'm looking forward to anything that they bring us regarding that.
Yeah. I mean, and I think we probably talked about it earlier, but the one of the downsides of this movie is introducing the team. Like it's 2.5-ish hours or something, probably runtime,
Something like that.
and you still feel like you're missing getting invested with some of these characters, and that's just because, like Josh said, there's 11 people, or give or take, that get screen
Right.
time. They cannot all get the same amount of backstory and screen time. You concentrate on 3 or 4, and that's enough to get the story going, and you go. So some characters do feel like they get left behind. I think Druig's one. I think Makarai's another. Everybody they get to late in the game, in the second half of the movie, that they're picking up and forming the team. All of those people I feel like get shortchanged. I would have liked to have seen more with those characters. But to Andy's point, I do think most of them did pretty well. I think Druig was probably my least favorite out of all of them.
Yeah, he sucked.
I don't know if I
Like when-
liked him.
When
didn't
Wow,
like
what's
him
his-
as vehemently as you do, but he was fine for me. But yeah, definitely one that I think I liked everybody else better.
when they pan to what was his name? The Indian actor.
Kumail?
Cameo.
Yeah, and he's like, Druid sucks.
Oh yeah.
I was like, yes, yes.
So here's, I get for me with Druig, I think like the part that sucks about Druig is he's right in what he's saying. It's just the way that he does things that puts everybody off.
Yep.
He's not wrong. He's just a dick.
Yep.
And I feel like that's, like I can relate to that in a lot of ways, but it's it's something that it's a good way to see them pointed out. Like, God damn, I wish he wasn't right, but does he have to be that way about it?
Exactly.
See, that actor was probably the only major person that I was completely unaware that was in this movie. I don't believe he was a part of the 2019 big announcement. He might have been a later cast. And when he showed up, I'm like, holy shit, that's the kid from Dunkirk. And I haven't seen it, but the Killing of a Sacred Deer, which I heard he's very haunting in. It's kind of cerebral in a way. It's like a unsettling thriller kind of thing. But I didn't know he was going to be in it. I was so surprised. Like, I don't want to say I forgot about him, but he is so missing for like an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's in like the prologue and you get the split, and then like he's just gone until they go seek him out with his tribe
Right.
later on. I didn't really fall into the problem with him. Like I think the actor played the character in the way that they wanted you to have him come across, and it didn't bother me.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with the acting. The character's a dick, but the actor, I feel like he portrayed it correctly.
Right. And
Yeah.
maybe that just was off-putting to people because they didn't want that type of personality in the mix.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Josh, what did you think about characters and actors?
The only piece, so I'm going to piggyback. I think Andy, did you say that? I think was it you that the Athena and Icarus fight? You had hoped it had been more expanded.
Yes.
So I was relieved and happy that they decided to keep Angelina Jolie as constrained as they did. If you tell me at Comic-Con they bring out this ensemble cast and Angelina Jolie is going to be in a Marvel movie finally, I'm like, okay, she's the lead. She's going to be competing with Selma Hayek for lead screen time and importance, and you're just not going to be able to get away from her. And they treated her character, and her just like everybody else. She almost, I thought, was one of the people that actually got much less screen time than I thought her character needed. However, in that moment, wouldn't that have been a great opportunity as an excuse, sort of, to make up for that? Like, okay, here comes a big, epic clash. Even if the outcome still is going to be the same in the end, we're really going to showcase and highlight Angelina Jolie in this moment. You're going to get a lot of wire work and green screening and CGIing of this fight between her and Icarus, but this is the moment where, okay, this is the reason that Angelina Jolie is in this movie.
Yeah.
So I was maybe surprised that they didn't give like a big punch moment like that for her.
They had an opportunity to do it. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, and if they were going to do it, that would have been a good place. But again, I'm not sad necessarily that they didn't. I was actually very, like I said, pleasantly surprised that I was never taken out of the movie every second because I'm looking at Angelina Jolie in a Marvel movie.
And as a counterpoint, I feel like they used her an appropriate amount, personally, because I never have really felt like she was a very good actress at all.
Okay.
but she has an intriguing look, and she has the ability to be a good side character. But I feel like because she's Angelina Jolie, she gets pushed into main character status. And I feel like she never really has had the acting chops to be there. And in this role, I feel like she performed very well, where they didn't give her a lot to do. They used her tools that she does have very well. That's a personal opinion, but I feel like they utilize her to the best possible extent. Now, the fight could have been more of a spectacle, absolutely.
Yeah.
But the whole her having more dialogue or something like that, I feel like I'm perfectly happy with where that landed.
Yeah, I think I was sort of with Josh. I expected, just looking at the cast list, that Angelina Jolie and Selma Hayek were going to have a lot more screen time than what they did. Just looking at the list, I assumed they were going to have more stuff to do. And I think that's why it's kind of surprised me that Selma Hayek's character died early on in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, really? Wow, they killed her already.
With the number of flashbacks they did, it was like, yeah, they showed her death, but it was still gonna...
Right, but at the time,
that's what my thought was at the time, but they didn't really use her that much after that.
Right. And even like the way stuff started, I wasn't sure how much the flashbacks, I guess, were going to get utilized. So once you see her dead, it's like, well, are we actually going to see her again, or is this it? She's got like 5 minutes of screen time, and that's it.
Well, I feel like Salma Hayek is not what, like, she's not as big of a name and like a top of the cast type person as she used to be.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, I feel like 10 years ago, yeah. But I feel like now she's still like a big name, but I feel like Richard Madden's a bigger name to have on your cast today than Salma Hayek.
Probably, yeah.
I think unless you've seen Game of Thrones, that Richard Madden doesn't mean anything to you.
Very.
Yeah, which, I mean, to me,
Chances
who hasn't
very
seen Game of Thrones, I was kind of like, okay, that dude, sure. He looks kind of cool.
Okay, that's fair.
I mean, I knew he was in Game of Thrones, so I have that reference, but I don't know like how much he's in it or how important of a character he is in that show, other than like, yeah, he's in that show.
All right. Yeah, again, of course. That's what he's known for. So
Yeah. Mike, you have anything else to add for characters or actors?
Personally, Richard Madden to me was the biggest disappointment. I know you had said you had really went for the character actress. I felt like I was looking for a lot more out of him, and I was hoping for a lot better.
Okay.
And I feel like I didn't get that. I felt like he was, I don't know, it just didn't feel genuine to me until the very end. I feel like the last 20% of the movie, his performance stepped up into what I expected of him. And the other 80% of the movie, I was kind of like, this is whatever.
He wasn't being, like, his character wasn't being genuine through that entire 80%.
Right, I think that's on purpose.
So.
Like,
No.
he's hiding his agenda the whole time.
No, I get that, but I'm saying, like, I was, like, he felt like he was reading lines from a cue card. You know what I mean? Like,
Okay.
It felt like going through the motions a bit, I guess, is what I would want to say, as opposed to genuine. Like, it just didn't feel as good as I know he can be.
I still might argue I think that's on purpose, and I think it's more to the point you made earlier of, like, some of these characters not interacting as well with, like, humans.
Humans, not being human.
Right, like, he's never gave a shit about the human being population on Earth at all.
Other than their reactions to Cersei, yes.
Right. So I think he comes out of his show a little bit when he's with the team, but just dealing with everybody else, I think you're right. He comes across as a little wooden and stiff and stuff like that.
It could be a lot of that going into, and that's where I feel like it's tough to nail down opinions of that. But moving past Richard Madden and all that, one, we talked about it when you introduced me for the show. Gilgamesh, we have not mentioned, was my absolute favorite character in this movie. He's this big, strong dude who they task with taking care of the mentally ill woman, and he's just like, yep, I'm making pie and brewing my own beer, and I'm just hanging out and eating some sweets and drinking some beer, and this is what I do for thousands of years, and I'm good with it. And yet he's probably stronger than all of them from what we see.
He looks like he's the brute force, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
like he's
when-
that. Yeah,
When they
like,
go back
it's
and,
just
and
wonderful.
find them, where like in whatever region that they're living in, and they just that first shot of him answering the door in that apron,
Yeah, just like, yep, hey guys.
Yeah.
like it wasn't as much of a laugh reaction in the theater as I think it deserved,
Yeah,
and I think it warranted that. But I really appreciated that moment.
I love him grabbing the pie out of the oven with a bare hand.
So
Yeah.
there. I just want to make it a point that there were two, both screenings I saw. There were two things that happened in the movie that got the biggest reaction. One of them we'll talk about in the end credit scene when a character shows up. That got the biggest
Yeah,
reaction from a certain demographic.
That was my reaction too, Josh.
The
Don't worry.
the other reaction that had audible gasps both times is when the pie slips off the pan and hits the ground.
No, not the pie.
Both screenings, like you could hear people just go, "Oh," like you
I
lost
wanted
the
that
pie.
I was gonna eat that pie when I got home. It looked like a good pie.
It did, yeah,
So I mean, it's he seemed to be, he was, I don't know, like the heart of the group to me. That,
Yeah.
you know, like all that, and there's something. I'll get off of it. I could write a love letter to Gilgamesh all I want. There's one big shining thing in the room I think needs said, in that Kumail Nanjiani, or however you say his last name, that guy's a legit star now, and I feel like his presence in this movie was whatever.
I'll say I like.
I
him
didn't.
Too.
I liked him, but it was just like he didn't matter to this movie. His character's existence in the plot was irrelevant.
I didn't care for his
valet matter.
I didn't care for his turn at the end where he sort of agreed with Icarus and didn't want to.
See, I
help.
kind of like that stance though that he took. Like, look, I
Yeah,
believe
'cause-
in the cause, but I respect you guys too much to fight you over it. I'm just gonna go my separate way and leave you guys alone. Like, I kind of dug. I was disappointed he was not involved in the climax of the movie,
Right.
but I got where his character was coming from, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? You want to take that stance? Cool. I'm fine. I'm good with that.
But I will say that his interactions with his valet were
Yes.
amazing.
Yeah.
And the valet at the end humanizes the whole thing.
Yes.
When he thanks them for everything they've done
Yeah.
for humanity, it to me that signified this realization on his part that these people or beings or whatever you want to call the Eternals in that room they shaped our world. And he is saying to them, yeah, you know what? A lot of our world sucks, but a lot of it's great. So thank you for everything you did to get this world to where it's at. That was the best moment in this movie for me.
Yeah, that was up there. Yeah. Like, I felt like
And
I was
that
meant to be
character-
emotional for other parts of the movie. The second viewing, that part when he's finally saying goodbye and thanking everybody, that was the part that I started tearing up for the second time I saw it. I don't know why it hit me that much harder the second time, but it did.
I think it's because it's that moment. It's that realization that you see him, like you know it's coming, but now you understand more the second time through when you know he's gonna thank them. It's like, man.
And then he
He's
thanks
right.
them and walks out of that ship expecting to die.
Yeah, he's
Because
like,
at
well,
that point
I
they don't
guess
have the
that's
plan. The
it.
team is breaking up. He's under the impression they have no way to stop this thing, and the inevitable is
Yeah.
coming. And he still thanks them and leaves.
And he
Yeah.
knows what their intentions are at the moment, at least most of them. But it's also been revealed to him because he's been along for the ride long enough that he now understands. And I think one of the characters even uses this term once they all start to learn the truth, that they are lambs for slaughter.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
the reason that humanity exists and has been protected and has been fostered and everything. They are literally they're being farmed.
Yes.
And
And that one human being has more perspective on the existence of the human race than anybody else on the planet.
Hmm.
And he looks at these gods and just says, well,
Even though,
Thank
even though this was your original plan and your original purpose for us, and we all now realize that, I'm hearing your change of heart, and for whatever it's worth, I guess it's appreciated.
Yeah.
thank you for what you gave us anyways.
Yeah, yeah.
And for characters, actors, actresses, all that, the last thing I would like to say is that Gemma Chan, to me, is now a leading actress that I want to see in movies. I want to see what she does next. She was fantastic. She was genuine throughout the entire movie. It felt like an excellent performance to me. And she was the one person I feel like gave a truly excellent performance, start to finish.
I do think, like, again, coming into this, I would have expected Selma Hayek or Angelina Jolie or someone with a little bit more name recognition to sort of be the star of the movie.
Yeah.
When you start to get like a third of the way in, you realize, no, it's following her. She's the lead.
Hmm.
She carried this movie the whole way through. I agree. I think she was great.
I was shocked with her casting, not because she, like, I've done it for years, looking at people getting recast in these movies, but
Between One World.
yeah, yeah, but she's actually, she came literally like right from Captain Marvel to getting cast in this. Captain Marvel comes out in March of 2019. Her casting in this is publicly announced in July of 2019. So she's put in 2 different movies in the same universe in 2 different roles, and I was happy that the way that, like, her makeup, her costuming, etc. in Marvel, it wasn't like I didn't even have a second of having to tell my mind, okay, that's not her character from the other one. Okay, she's now Cersei. Okay.
Okay, wait, because you're blowing my mind. I don't think I realized she was in Captain Marvel.
Yeah,
She was one of the Kree.
She's one of the Kree. She's Minerva. She's the
So she's the sniper
Yeah.
lady.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay, all right. I've connected the dots now. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, the makeup helps.
It
Yes,
does
I agree.
a
A
lot
lot,
in her
yeah.
case because, like I said, I was shocked that just from a production standpoint, the producers would think, okay, we've recycled some things before, but never that fast.
Yeah.
And never
you
that
know who
fresh.
they could get away with this with as well?
Hmm.
Lee Pace.
Someone like that, yes.
He could be Ronan and somebody else entirely, and it wouldn't matter
Yeah.
because he's so disguised as Ronan.
Yes.
It would work. So it's that Kree connection you could filter down the line a little bit. That would work.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was random, but
I'd like to circle back around to Gilgamesh a little bit.
Yeah.
I feel like, huh?
I said absolutely more Gilgamesh. I'm excited.
I feel like Icarus stuck him with the strong deviant on purpose, knowing that he might eventually have to face him.
I can believe that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, knowing that Gilgamesh would want to probably prevent the emergence, he knew that he would probably, if Gilgamesh and Thena were on the same page against Icarus, I don't think Icarus would have won.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
So he, I know Gilgamesh tells him to go, but he could have helped. They could have conquered that, and
Yeah.
then gone. I feel like that was a calculated flight on the part of Icarus.
I got you. Yeah, I could see that.
To give her a little bit of due, I would say that even though, yes, I agree that Makari did not get enough attention overall, when it came to that final fight, I absolutely loved how much she was just kicking Icarus's ass.
Well, that shows why characters like the Flash are so powerful with just pure speed.
Yeah.
The
It-
one thing I kept
Sometimes
thinking
that's all
of
you need.
was Injustice. Like
Yeah.
I kept coming back to Injustice every time someone had to kick Icarus's ass. Was like, okay, this is the Superman character, and they make that joke in the movie.
Right.
Yep.
His similarities to Superman. But yeah, just seeing everyone's tactics against him to try to disarm him, and yeah, even just the effects for all of that, like the sound design, the way it looked when
Yep.
she was speeding around kicking his ass, like all of that, I loved every single second of that.
And what is that actress's name? Because she's fantastic.
Lauren.
I don't know.
Lauren-
Ridloff.
Yeah.
Or
She-
Ridloff.
Ridloff.
She
Yeah, there's
had
an L
a
there.
long run, and I believe she's still going on The Walking Dead. She's a fantastic actress, and I hope she gets more work.
Is
And
she a deaf actress, or did she only
Yes.
play
Yes.
a deaf person on this?
She is deaf.
Okay.
I feel like that's I actually seen a recent thing like that's something like what's his name? Son of a bitch. John Krasinski. I feel like something similar happened here. Like John Krasinski on the set of A Quiet Place, like asked a whole bunch of people to learn sign language on set, and I feel like I remember hearing something similar about her, but I can't confirm why it happened. But
Yeah. I mean, it would make sense. Anybody else we want to talk about for characters, actors? I mean, there's a few we haven't touched on, so I can spin back around to those if we want to touch on some of them.
Yeah, I would
but-
say Faustus. I was didn't have a problem with it in the world, but I was very surprised. I was just not prepared. I did not know in advance the storyline that they eventually were writing for him. I thought it was great to see them humanize and normalize one of them in like, okay, regardless of the consequences, I'm going to try to live in certain mortal ways, and I'm going to take on a companion, a mortal companion, and we're going to have a family, and I understand what the implication of that is, and whatnot. I loved all the visual shit that they did with him and the manifestation of his abilities. That was really cool.
Did not expect him to go toe to toe with Icarus
No.
and be able to contain him as long as he did. So that was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like they underplayed just how powerful he could be. It's one of those things that, like, I think that's part of even the Greek mythology around the god Hephaestus, that Hephaestus was actually just as powerful as Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, but Hephaestus was deformed and different, so he was cast aside. And not given as much credit, I guess. So I don't think that they played like the deformed and different side of it as being cast aside as powerful. But I like the way that they played the Eternals that I guess I didn't realize before is all of them representing some of the gods that people recognize today, with Hephaestus, with Athena, with Mercury, with Icarus being maybe not a god, but a character of legend, if you will.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, Gilgamesh. Exactly. Like they all were some different form of mythological deity, I guess. I like that part of it. I didn't ever remember reading or getting that from the comic when I read it. And maybe that's because I wasn't reading into it far enough, or I just don't remember. But it was cool. It was very cool.
I think one Eternal that we haven't mentioned is Sprite. What do you guys think of Sprite?
She did a very good job, and the powers were really fucking cool.
Yeah.
I think there was some capability sets so similar to, say, Loki that they weren't
Oh, okay.
sure, like with the illusions and
Right.
and whatnot, that they might have intentionally held her back from the instances in which she applied them, so that you didn't have the similarities so front facing.
Yeah. I dug it though. I liked her. I liked her arc. Like it's and I think she did a pretty good job like portraying someone that is so old but doesn't look old, and they sort of set that up in the beginning of her in the bar and Matt, setting the illusion that she's
Right.
some teenager or 20-year-old woman at college, and even more symbolism of the stuff that she wants but can't have.
Mm-hmm.
And
I Go ahead. Sorry.
Good. Now, it's just how that reflects to the movie, and that's the storyline that carries her through. I kind of dug all that.
I loved the scene where she called the valet young man.
Oh yes,
It
Yeah.
seemed so odd. You're like, wait, what? Oh yeah, okay.
when he keeps pulling out all the cameras that he can't keep packed with him.
Yeah.
How many cameras do you have, young man?
Which
The one thing I kept thinking about with like Kumail is like, you think about it. Okay, on set without any special effects, he's literally going around in action sequences and to people and pointing finger guns at people.
Finger guns
Yep.
all
Like
over set.
how can you keep us like? There's a moment at the end of the movie when Icarus turns and the camera shows his hand making the finger gun, and then slowly bringing it up to camera as he's saying something completely dead ass serious to Icarus. And all I'm thinking the whole time is like, how do you keep a straight face if you are on set and have to do the sideways finger gun
Kill
at
shot.
camera and try
That's
and
kill
try
shot,
to
it's kill
deliver
shot.
something seriously without cracking a smile? Like that's got to be hard. But props to you, buddy.
That was take number
I mean,
6.
there's-
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say there was no way that's in one take. Like that's
You get all that out.
the
in
first time he
rehearsals.
did that, everybody on set died laughing. Like
And I feel like it's the same thing with like lightsabers. Like when everybody uses a lightsaber in a Star Wars show or movie or whatever, they're talking about how they provide themselves the sound effects. If you are making finger guns and you're probably sitting there going pew 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 pew, like you're doing it yourself.
I feel like they have to like. In that case, he has to like edit himself doing the pews. You know what I mean? Like he has to just be like, "Don't do it, don't do it,
Right.
don't do it." Like,
Do it in your head. Do it in your head. Yeah.
yeah, like
It's one of those things where you probably see the final cut of the movie and you're like, wow, they did make me look cool. I feel like less of an asshole now, just running around with finger guns everywhere.
I
did
will,
they make him look cool though? I feel like they
I
looked
thought it
really,
worked. It
like-
worked for me. I loved it.
I will say, as far as power sets and whatnot, his was the most bland.
Once
It
I
was
got
like-
over that he was literally making finger guns and shooting everything, I was like, this is cool.
I guess, like, but everybody else seems to be a bit more specialized, and his is more. Okay, I'm exuding energy shots from my body.
He's the
and I'm
projectile
just-
guy.
and
They
I'm
got to have a
going,
ranged guy.
I don't know.
I don't know. Cersei's was pretty bland.
Yeah, that's true. It was very
They
basic.
used
It was
to cooler
passive.
effect,
It was
I
much
think.
more passive.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you could
And-
do more
and
with
what
it.
was Ajax only healed? What was her?
Ajax could
thing?
heal.
Yeah.
That was
She was
it.
a healer.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean they had a full like
D&D
MMO
party.
raid team. Yeah, like they were ready to go. Like
DPS.
I mean, Gilgamesh was a tank. Athena and Icarus were your DPS, and you had your healer, you had your range, you had your magic with Sprite.
Yeah.
You know, you had it all going on.
Were you guys surprised how many Eternals actually died in this movie? I don't think I expected that many to go in the first
Yeah.
movie.
I was surprised.
I didn't honestly have any expectation on life or death for them going in at all. I
'Cause
hadn't
they
even
lost-
considered like, damn, a lot of them are gonna die. It didn't even. So yeah,
Like
one
Ajax
was
went,
surprised.
Gilgamesh went, Icarus went.
Gilgamesh.
Am I missing anybody else?
The three of them. I guess that makes sense. You need
Icarus, Ajax,
you
Gilgamesh.
you take the leader, and that acts as a push forward in the story.
Right.
You know, she's the most ancient seeming, if you will, and whatnot. That you need a casualty, you need collateral, you need something to invest us in, and that's Gilgamesh. And then your resolution from the conclusion of the story. You know, I thought it was interesting that in the end, Icarus does choose to kill himself.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that's a bit of an
Well-
arc that has to apply to him because they can't have him just be murdered by the other characters.
Right,
Because
that-
he is a murderer.
right. If
He is.
if they had
like he
defeated
murdered
him,
Ajax.
if they had defeated him in battle, it would have not been as surprising.
fine.
Yeah, since he decided to help them in their decision, but ultimately, you know, I can't live with myself continuing
Right.
on
You're still a
with,
murderer.
with what I've done
know,
and
like,
whatever is to come next and all of that. And you know,
I'm under the
takes
impression he
himself
didn't
out.
help, though. Like, I think he was an unwilling participant to what happened at the end. The only thing he chooses to do is not kill Cersei.
Yeah, but I feel like even at that point, like it's the question becomes: does he kill himself? He forgives. He realizes what he did. He comes around morally in his own mind. He has that moral swap of like, damn, I was wrong.
That I agree to, but let's go back to that other point. You think that at some point he involuntarily got linked in to the
Yes.
Unimind thing?
Yes.
I think they all did.
That was my intent.
Because they even
I
make
feel
the
like
point.
even at some point, like wherever Kingo is, I feel like he gets attached to that too, somewhere on Earth.
Because they say something after the whole thing, like, oh, everyone was linked, even Icarus and Sprite. Like, they had no intention of helping form the Unimind, and yet they were part of it.
Yeah.
Well, in his... all right, so I'm coming along the ride with you most of the way there. In his moment, because I feel like from what I remember, wherever Cersei is and wherever he is, he displaces from wherever he is to wherever she is.
Yes.
And it felt to me like he had a moment in that he was then making a choice. Yes, as one of you just said, he was choosing not to kill her, but he was deliberately joining what was happening, or could have stopped or disconnected himself if he had wanted to. That's how I took it.
Yeah, I think it's two separate things. I think he chooses not to kill Cersei just for love of Cersei. Like, I have no doubt that he absolutely loved Cersei.
Yeah,
So at that moment, right at the climax, he can't kill the woman he loves.
Sure.
And at that moment, he knows he lost. Now, whether that means he feels defeated and that somehow opened him up to be linked, but because Cersei is feeding from the Celestial, like the Celestial has the power, it's feeding into Cersei, and then Cersei uses that to link to everybody else. Regardless of if they were signed up to do this or not, every other Eternal is then linked that way, and then everything powers up and she saves the day.
Sure. And I guess that as part of what, similar to what Mike was saying earlier about like the acting choices, was it deliberate or was it not? I think I would view his conclusion, his story arc conclusion, differently depending on the truth of what happened to him in that moment.
Okay.
Whether it was more of an
Yeah, sure.
active choice or whether it was passive or involuntary.
Well, I mean, whatever the case might be, I feel like it's a character protection for the others not to kill him and to have him kill himself.
Oh, sure. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean,
with
it's his
that.
own arc because it's Icarus flying into the sun,
Right.
so it really fucking works, and that's a really cool way for him to do it. But, you know, for listeners out there, when I say character protection, I'm referring to the fact that we don't have the main characters committing murder to kill him because he killed Ajax. There has to be consequence to that for him morally, as a moral arc for the character. There has to be some end to that. There has to be a resolution to that situation, and he chose to end that himself, or rather the writers chose to end that resolution with him taking himself out, as opposed to putting moral jeopardy onto one of the existing, remaining, living, continuing characters.
See, I was really hoping that, like, in that moment when he flies off, that he sort of like Josh is describing, did have some sort of moral, like, epiphany, and, like, just is going to go to space to, like, just meditate on it or you know, figure his shit out, and then we'd see him somewhere later. And then he just continues to fly into the sun. I'm like, what? No, don't go in. No, I want to see more of you.
That for me, as soon as he went to space, I was like, he's flying into the sun.
Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah,
Because it was Icarus, I was like, yeah, he's going.
I thought maybe he was going to go hunting for Arishem.
Oh yeah, I could have seen that too. All right, let's wrap up characters and actors with just like, do you have a favorite character out of everybody, whether that's an Eternal or not? But
can I before we do that? Can I counterpoint something real quick?
yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to counterpoint the fact that you said all of those Eternals like died in this movie. You forget that there was basically like a droid factory full of all of their bodies, and also an
Very
entire library of memories of millions of years of emergences.
Right.
So it's not out of the realm of possibility to be able to see some of these characters again.
I did make that comment, I think, to Josh after the fact that I was on the impression the scene you're describing when they show the factory of Eternals, I interpreted that as Aramis was sending the same team everywhere, like just making copies of the same team and sending them everywhere. So to your point, we could see these characters again, just they just be a different version of themselves from another one of these teams. I think Josh made the point where he thought they might be different characters and not all the same set of people.
Well, I think we have evidence that to Josh's thing.
Considering the end credit scene, yes.
Yes.
That's what I would. Yeah, we were not supposed to talk about that yet, so I didn't want to. But yes.
Okay.
But who's to know? In the millions of years of them doing these emergencies, maybe a few of them have died along the way that Ajax wasn't able to save and had to have been, like replaced for the next mission.
Okay, I gotcha.
Is what I'm sort of getting at.
So it's one team, but every time they send the team out, they replenish any lost heroes and throw them in. Okay, I gotcha.
That's where I'm coming from. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, just around the horn. Do you guys have a favorite character out of the movie? Josh, you got a favorite?
I
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
I guess if I had, I mean, maybe Cersei. I think she had maybe the most complete, fleshed out character. I think everyone, almost everyone had an arc, and I kind of understood most people beginning to end, with the exception of a few. But I think she might be the most robustly put together as we got.
Okay. Mike?
Gilgamesh.
No, I should have saw that coming. Yeah.
No, I mean, honestly, like when it happened in the theater right afterwards, we talked about it. I'm like, man, I'm just really sad they killed off Gilgamesh because.
Or did they?
He was fucking awesome. We just had that discussion, but nonetheless, he was fucking awesome. A man of my own heart. I mean, I can really relate to a guy that's like, pie, beer, let's do this, and that, like I'm all there for, and then, like definitely Gilgamesh.
Would you drink the beer that's fermented spit and corn that he's made?
Well, it was what,
only live once.
A beer, mead, wine hybrid, I think he said.
Yeah.
He said something about like, what was it, a different drink or was it that drink that he like chews the kernels individually and spits them all back into the...
it was the same. It was the same hybrid drink. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you only live once, and that sounds to me like something you ain't getting anywhere else, and that is some serious dedication and effort that went into that, and usually that produces the best stuff, so I'm drinking that for sure.
Andy, you got a favorite character?
That's so tough. I know who I don't like.
I think you've made that pretty clear.
It's tough because a lot of the arcs I really liked. Like I liked Festus. I liked his arc and the humanity he provided to Eternals who really aren't meant to be such. Sprite's character was really cool, being in love for thousands of years with someone she knew she could never have. That was like her arc was really cool. I liked God, I can't remember his name. Why can't I remember his name?
You gonna give us a hint on who you're
Dane?
Dane? Who the hell's Dane?
Kit Harington.
Jon Snow?
Kit Harington.
Oh.
I was just guessing what you were trying to...
No, Johnny, or what's his name?
Oh, Camille.
Karan.
Camille, yeah. What's his character's name?
Kingo.
I liked his comedic relief, but I felt like his arc was lacking. It's a tough call. I'm gonna say Thena, just because I feel like she foreshadowed. I liked how they foreshadowed everything that was coming about using her.
Yeah.
And I almost thought that she was gonna be sort of like the big bad.
If I was gonna pick somebody, it was gonna be the one that seemed like they were going apeshit halfway through the movie,
right?
And incontrollable, like not in control of their own actions. I figured that would have been the one that was turning on the team.
I would probably say hers, and I'm not like a huge Angelina Jolie fan, but I felt like they, like Josh said, used her correctly.
Yeah. I still think, I don't know why, after 2 viewings, I still come out of it, and the one that I keep coming back to is Icarus. I still really like Icarus's story and how that portrayed and how that worked for me. Close second, I think, is Cersei. I think she did awesome and had probably the most complete arc out of everybody.
She had the most screen time for sure.
Yeah. So I think that was it for me. Right. Anything else that we want to talk about that we haven't talked about yet? This is our everything else category.
I'll try to pay attention.
Well, I guess
real quick. I don't think this one will take very long. I will try to pay attention to it more when I get around to a second viewing. But I feel like I enjoyed the music in this a lot. I mean, when they went like back and forth in time, and they have these characters also spread out in modern day over big periods. Like, I think the mixture of it was good at feeling modern, like modernly composed, but also not like over the top, classical or timeless or anything. I think it was a good mixture. But like I said, I'd have to make sure to try to pay attention to it a bit more.
Yeah.
But nothing ever, like everything that I heard felt like it complemented all the scenes very well.
so.
Okay.
I was gonna go to the same place with music, and composing this movie we have Ramin Djawadi, who you may know also from Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
Did the Game of Thrones work, and I was expecting so much better. So, when I hear that he's attached to it, he is fairly new. He is very talented, and we have this whole new team for him to work with. And I think about the Marvel Universe and the different themes that we have. And I feel like this is where this movie's failing.
Okay.
Because you think about Guardians of the Galaxy. You can hear that theme in your head right now. You think about Captain America, and you can hear that theme in your head. The Avengers, you can hear that. So, I can go on. The point is, I don't feel like we have that theme here. And if we were going to get a Marvel Heroes theme that we could hear in the future, I would have loved to hear what he could bring to that, and I feel like we didn't get that. So that disappointed me. Other than that, I feel like it was really good. I just wanted that theme somewhere where I was like, oh yeah, it's Eternals time.
Yeah, I think the soundtrack was good. I don't think it stood out for me, as like Mike's saying, as much as I wanted it to. I tried to actually listen to the soundtrack off, like after seeing the movie, just to see if it would stick out to me anymore. And there is a track that I think is called Eternals Theme. And even listening to it outside of the movie, I still can't think in my head right now how it goes, which is not great for a theme. But I mean, I don't remember it like pulling me out of the movie. Like it fit with what was going on in the movie. Maybe I have to give it a little bit more plays before I start to get a feel for it. But yeah, it was fine for me. Like I think I wanted more, but it didn't pull me out of it, so it's fine.
It was nothing outstanding. I honestly didn't notice any of the score too much during the movie. So like Josh said, it didn't pull me out, but it doesn't have any staying power either.
Yeah.
The one thing I'm glad that they didn't do was, I think during the Marvel crawl, somewhere toward the beginning, there's like one pop song that's used, and I don't even remember which one it is. Oh yeah, it's it's Pink Floyd. Is there anybody out? What Mike? Do you remember this? I feel like
he's giving you a look like he does not.
No, I don't recall Pink Floyd in this movie.
Oh yeah, it was
you may
the
not
beginning.
be wrong.
It was the beginning of the movie. Was Pink Floyd? I can't remember what song it was though.
It's a Pink Floyd song, and what I was worried that they would do is like, okay, we have another sci-fi space-oriented team movie we're introducing, that they would try to insist on replicating somewhat of the Guardians of the Galaxy formula and have a bunch of needle drops along the way, and I'm really glad that they didn't.
Yeah,
they needed to be their own thing.
Yeah.
Like that's the Guardians thing, that's their thing, that's the Star-Lord character, that's why it's a part of it, leave it there.
Oh,
I'm glad they did that.
I should have noticed. It's the Floyd song is called Time.
Oh, all right. Well, that makes sense. I'm assuming it's probably played during some of the flashbacks.
It's like right. It's within the prologue, and I swear like during like the Marvel crawl
Yeah.
at the beginning.
Okay.
Isn't Time the one that has the whole bunch of like the different like alarm and bells and
At the beginning of it, yes, like the actual song, it has that.
So that-
but I think
that-
the
that
snippet
part,
that they played, I think they cut the bell sounds, the clock sounds out.
okay.
Yeah.
But among other things for me, the special effects on the monsters were amazing. I don't know how to decipher one from the other. I mean, you had like the ones that flew, and the one that was like a wolf, and the one that was whatever. They looked really fucking good.
Yeah.
I
I mean, I think even just
enjoyed
the
seeing that.
effects in like just in general, not even just like those look good, but
Yeah.
I think like even I had a really hard time and I was trying to look for it. Like a lot of the weapons and stuff they use with like the scripture looking stuff that glows.
Yeah, it looked like schematics or something. That
Yeah.
like, yeah.
And
that
after
was
a
really
while,
cool.
I start to lose track of what is practical and what is CG. And I think that's a testament to the movie. Like,
Yeah, I agree.
because I guarantee you, there's got to be weapons and stuff. Like some of the stuff that Angelina Jolie uses, like her sword and stuff, and axe or whatever. I feel like she's actually holding some sort of practical weapon or blade or something
Mhm.
that has to have some sort of light in there to make it glow because you have the lighting effect that's in camera. I don't think that's an effect. I think that's there when they're shooting. But there's other definite times where there's CG added to it when they're fighting and moving stuff around. So, but because I couldn't tell what was CG and what was practical, I was like, okay, well they've won me over with the effects. They look great.
I agree. Those are like Thena's effects in particular, and Gilgamesh with
Yeah.
like the gauntlet thing. That was awesome. And I feel like the effect they gave him with like, oh look, he's gonna punch, and then boom, and the earth shakes, and it's like, holy shit, what just
Sound
happened?
design went a big way, I think, in this movie too. Like
Mhm.
the impact of Gilgamesh's punches and like the sound barrier breaking of Makurai speeding around,
Mm-hmm.
where she would like run, and I think it's like she wouldn't even hit somebody. She would stop in front of them, and the sonic boom that follows her would hit somebody.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
that was cool as shit.
I really appreciated Icarus's like I don't know what else to call them other than eye lasers. That
Yeah.
sound was,
I think
was all
that's- I think that
Cyclops
fits.
thing.
Yeah.
pretty cool.
He had a Cyclops pose in there too that I was like, this is a Cyclops like trading card where he's like puts his arm out
Oh,
and
yeah,
like
like,
shoots up in the
straight
air.
up
Like that's a
sky.
Cyclops pose. Like
It
Ah.
is. In so many different fucking X-Men comics through the year, that is an exact Cyclops
yes,
pose.
yeah,
so
that's the
many
first thing I
times.
thought of. Anything else from you guys for the everything else category? I think we've hit everything that I wanted to touch on.
Is this when we're doing the snippets?
We'll do the end credits, yeah, if we're good with
Okay.
the everything else.
Alright, go for it.
Okay, so we'll do the credits. So I'll roll through like just what they are just to refresh everybody's memory, and then we'll talk about them. So the mid-credit scene has Thena, Druig, and Makurai out in space on their ship. They are interrupted by a drunken leprechaun-looking dude.
Dwarf.
Who,
He's a dwarf.
Dwarf, okay. Who introduces us to another Eternal, who is Thanos' brother, Eros, also known as Star Fox. Oh, and he's played by Harry Styles, which is the second crowd reaction that I got in both screenings of the movie.
I think
Most of
it's-
which were teenage girls you could hear screaming whenever he appeared on screen.
Can I note my old manness?
You don't know who that is.
No, I didn't. I had to ask Amy who that was.
Yeah.
Because the same kind of reaction happened with some of the young girls in the audience. And I was like, I didn't get it.
Yeah.
And I had to ask why that happened.
I think Josh had the same reaction, actually.
a little bit.
I
I think it's also. I think is his character Star Fox or
Star Fox.
Fire?
Yes.
Star Fox.
Fox.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Starfire's DC.
Ah, that's what I'm getting. Okay. Yeah. The only reason so I had to ask if that is who that was or like who is that, and someone said the name. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't recognize the face as a thing on its own, and then when I was told the name, I'm like, oh, that guy. And
See, like I recognized that the name was a thing.
Uh-huh.
She said, "Oh, it's Harry Styles." I'm like, I've heard that before. Who is he?
see,
And I had to be
I
told
remembered,
that like he was with One Direction or whatever. And I'm like,
yeah,
oh,
and
okay.
I went
What's One
I
Direction?
went through that
I-
arc a couple of years ago when he was in Dunkirk.
Okay.
So he had a small role in Dunkirk, and when that was all happening, that's when I had learned all that crap. But yeah, when he walked out on screen, and same thing, I heard higher registered voices, all needing a change of pants. Then I said, "Oh, is this a person? This is a thing?" And someone said, "Yeah, it's Harry Styles." Oh, okay, that's great. I'm so happy he's here now.
Andy, do you have something to add? I thought you were gonna say something.
I was
and then
just gonna say the same thing sort of happened to me. I was only in the theater with like 5 other. It was me and Jess, and then 5 other people. So like, didn't really get much in the way of reactions.
Right.
But I didn't immediately recognize who Harry Styles is. Like, I know who he is, like One Direction, like in like his solo stuff. I recognize, but immediately I was like, I don't know who that is. And then like, well, we were discussing it on the way in. She's like, "What did you think about Harry Styles?" And I'm like, "Wait, what?" Like,
You
"Where
finally
was
put a
he?"
name to the face.
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh shit, that was him."
So yeah, he shows up on screen. He tells the rest of the Eternals that their friends are in trouble and he knows where to find them. I did look up, try to get a comic book history quickly for who Star Fox is, because I have no idea who the fuck this character is. I didn't find a lot to go on. His introduction in the movie kind of gives you really all the relevant information that I feel like I got from a quick biography that I read, that he's an Eternal, he comes from Titan, he's the brother of Thanos, and he goes by the nickname Star Fox. Marvel.com describes him as a charming womanizer. So I honestly don't know how he fits into the MCU and what they plan to do with him from here, but I mean, what do you guys think of the reveal and the casting? And we'll go from there.
So the casting, I don't really know what to make of, because he doesn't really have a lot of acting credits, and we'll see if he's good or not.
Yeah.
He looks appropriate for the role. He looks like Star Fox pretty well, you know what I mean? In terms of Star Fox as a character in the comics and what storylines he plays a lot into, there's a couple. This will be confusing for listeners if you don't read comics, but what we have already seen in the Marvel Universe is based upon the Infinity Gauntlet storyline in the comic books. As a whole, the Infinity Gauntlet is the name of that story that we saw. However, we saw a movie already called The Infinity War. Star Fox, actually, the comic book version of what is called Infinity War, is actually kind of where Star Fox first shows up and starts interacting with things, and we start to see what the hell his deal is there. And I believe he also plays a big part in, I think it was just called Infinity, which was actually pretty recent, like 2010s, somewhere in there. Which ends up focusing more on Thanos' son than it does Eros, but he plays a part there. Other than that, I don't really know a lot about the character personally. But it's one of those weird things, like, oh, hey, I'm this red, and it's just as weird in the comics. Like, here's this big, giant, purple dude named Thanos, and I'm a Irish-looking lad named Eros, and I'm his brother. And it's like, what the fuck is going on here? So I'm sure they will eventually explain it, and without spoiling too much about exactly how that comes about.
Well, because I don't know if, like, the little bit I think I read about, like, comic book history is, like, somehow he's associated with Adam Warlock, who we know we're getting in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. But their adventures, from what I sort of read, were tied to them trying to hunt down Infinity Gems or stones.
In the Infinity War. Yeah.
Except that the stones no longer exist in the MCU right now. So I feel like that kind of... I see where you're going. With everything else going on, there is a chance we could see them again. I don't think... if Marvel is smart, I don't think they'll bring them back. I think the Infinity Stones, the Gauntlet, that storyline is dead and gone. and we're moving on to something else and going from here. And if his storyline in the comics is tied to the stones or the gems, I think they have to find him something else to do, because I personally do not expect to see the gems ever again.
So to be fair, in the comics, they reintroduce them time and time again throughout like the history of the comics since they've been there. They do get reintroduced a bunch. This character specifically, I was shocked to see brought into the MCU. Because it's a very difficult character to explain. It's a very difficult character to give a motivation to. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
To bring Star Fox in at this point. Yeah, he's the brother of Thanos, but it's also like, the fuck are they going to do with this guy? Like, why is he here?
Right.
I'm interested to see, but I'm also perplexed a bit.
Okay. Andy, what did you think of the whole thing? Do you like the reveal? Any idea what do you think this character could do? Or
I'm assuming Pip is the herald of Star Fox.
Friend, kind of like, yeah. I mean, at least in the comics, the way they're playing him here, he's just kind of doing his thing. But Pip is like, from what I remember in the comics, Pip is kind of a drunken asshole. Like, it is like just like the sidekick, I guess, more than the herald.
Okay.
Like a friend, but just like that drunken idiot, just like, yeah, go do this. Okay. And that's how a lot of dwarves are played in the Marvel comics.
I was thinking he was more of a satyr. But he's a dwarf?
As far as I know, Pip is... So, this is where the MCU is confusing me. Because in the comics, Pip would have fit into the same realm of dwarves as Eitri. Peter Dinklage's character from Infinity War.
okay.
Right.
They would have been the same. The menders of Uru, if you will. That, they work in making weapons like Mjolnir and things like that. They would have been from the same place doing the same thing.
Quite a sizable difference between the two.
That's why I'm not entirely sure where they're going. So, yeah, as far as I can tell, that's where they would be, but what they're going to do with Pip, either way, he was fun. I liked him.
I do think he was the worst looking CG thing we've seen in this movie. So I don't know if that was just like a rushed post-credit scene that they just didn't give it the time to settle.
It looked really cartoony, and it did sort of pull me out at that point.
Yeah.
When I saw him, I was like, eh. But as far as Harry Styles goes, I mean, like, his costume looked cool, and he looked like he could play the role if they give him one.
Yeah.
Also,
Josh, what do you think?
Well, I would like to highlight the fact that Patton Oswalt is Pip the Troll more than I care about Harry Styles.
Oh, that's right. He is a troll and not a dwarf.
I'm way more happy that Patton Oswalt, even in if in voice only, is in the MCU proper now.
Yeah. Yeah, because we talked after the movie. We got Patton Oswalt in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which, may or may not fit MCU. We've had this discussion before, but yeah, having him straight up in the MCU, it's good for us.
Who was he in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Agent Koenig.
He plays like his
his
own brother.
Spoilers, come on, man.
Just another S.H.I.E.L.D. agent.
Okay.
So
correcting myself, I was wrong. Pip is a troll.
Okay.
He's not a dwarf. So it still holds up. But
him and Dinklage would be different then.
Yeah. They would be different. Dinklage was still a deviation from
a reverse dwarf.
Yeah, like from the classic dwarves that make the Uru weapons for Asgardians.
Yeah.
He was definitely a deviation, but nonetheless, go ahead.
I mean, that's kind of all I got. I don't know where they're going to take this character. Like the little bit we sort of talked about, I don't think there's too much history to go on that I think can apply here. Like at least where we're at right now in the MCU. So I don't know. I will be more likely be learning about this character as the movies introduce us to him. Like, I probably won't go out of my way to look anything else up. I've gone as far as I can go or want to go. And because I kind of, for the most part, went into this movie blind. Like, I didn't really know anything about the Eternals. I let this movie tell me what they wanted to tell me, and I liked the story. So I'll probably still try to do that with Eros and wherever they take Star Fox and stuff like that. So I'll just see where they go.
I mean, they might go the direction of like the Collector, who you really don't ever really see except for maybe like a minute here and a minute there.
True.
I mean, Benicio del Toro is a pretty big name, and
Yeah. I mean, I
He's
guess I get the impression that they're setting Star Fox up to be some sort of in the movie ends with the Eternals will return. So I'm assuming he's gonna have to be part of the team in the sequel, but that's presumptuous, I guess, on my part. So I'm expecting to see more of him, more than the Collector, at least. Anything else for the first credit scene, or we'll get to the second one? Nothing. All right. So the second scene we get is after the credits. The scene has Kit Harington's Dane Whitman looking at a case with a family crest on it. After some hesitation, he opens the case to reveal a sword. The inscription inside the case in Latin has an inscription inside the case in Latin that translates to "Death is my reward." Dane reaches to touch the blade. The blade seems to react to his approach. Before he can touch the blade, he's stopped by a voice from an unknown person that says, "Are you sure you're ready for that, Mr. Whitman?" Fade to black, end credits. So Andy mentioned earlier, Black Knight. So what's up with Dane? In the comics, Dane is the hero known as the Black Knight, which looks like a dude in a knight's armor. The Black Knight, Dane's family history has always been tied to the sword. This is known as the Ebony Blade. The sword was forged by Dane's ancestor, Sir Percy of Scandia, and Merlin had a hand in making the sword. The blade itself came from a Starstone meteorite that can even stop Wolverine's adamantium claws, so it is a formidable weapon. The catch with the sword is that it's cursed, which you might get a sense of that when he opens the case and there's foreboding sound effects and all that kind of thing. So whoever wields the sword has to fight against the sword's bloodlust. Dane's uncle, Nathan Garrett, which the name Garrett, Josh, threw me for a loop, and I had to be like, wait, is that somehow? I don't know if that's a family tree thing, but we can talk about that maybe off stream, because that's spoilers for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. For any people that have watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the name Garrett,
Like, why does that sound familiar?
yeah, comes into play.
Right.
But Dane's uncle, Nathan Garrett, succumbed to the bloodlust and was a villainous Black Knight. In the comics, when the mantle gets passed to Dane, he's mostly been able to fight against the bloodlust and, for the most part, be a hero. So that's sort of where we're relieved at. And leaving the theater, I had some people behind me say, "Oh, I know who that voice is. It's this person." I was like, "No, I don't know if I believe that." Looked it up after the fact.
I know who they thought it was.
Well, I looked it up after the fact, and whoever they thought it was correct.
They thought, because what Amy thought to me was incorrect. Her thought was that it was Jeffrey Wright. And it was
the Beyonder.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or no, the Watcher.
Or that's what I meant. Yeah.
She thought it was the Watcher, and I was like, I don't think so.
Yeah. The benefit of seeing it twice was that I was unsure walking out of the first viewing who it was, but listening for it the second time, I was like, oh no, yes, that is that person. I presume
it was also
confirmed.
Mike. Well, it was confirmed by the director. I did look it up specifically to show her.
Josh and Andy, do you guys have any idea who was speaking to Dane?
I've seen the same thing that Mike did now, so yeah, I know who it is.
Andy, do you have a guess?
I haven't read anything, but I've talked to friends at work, and they've told me what they've read. My initial thought was that it was Nick Fury.
Okay.
Just
Incorrect.
Sounded like to him at the moment, I guess.
Yeah.
But
so who were people at work telling you it is?
Mahershala Ali.
Yes.
Correct.
So director Chloe Zhao confirmed it is Mahershala Ali. So this is the first quote-unquote appearance of Blade in the MCU.
So I don't know anything about any connection between the two. So I was wondering if anybody here did.
There's a razor thin, it's a very, very short comic run that they both ran with the same team And it was called what? Brian, do you have the name of it?
Offhand, I do not.
It
Like I
was
know,
something
I
like
read some stuff that seemed like they crossed paths occasionally, but I don't remember what team they were parts of.
it. Well, it was like it wasn't even like an official name. Like there was never a comic with that title. You know what I mean? Like named that. They were like they teamed together very very briefly. Let's put it that way. And it was a insignificant thing. It didn't like gain any kind of traction like the Marvels, like Black Knights or Excalibur or anything along those lines ever did. But they're both sword wielders, so it kind
they
of
have that
makes
in common.
sense.
I mean, I think it's more like the Black Knight's cursed blade is more of a supernatural thing, and Blade deals in the supernatural. So I think that's where they sort of cross paths.
Yeah.
Which, maybe the MCU is going to start to lean that direction, or at least have a slice of the MCU go that way. Like, I think we're building characters that play in that realm.
Yeah, I think we're going to see... Because didn't they just cast, like... Well, I mean, we know Oscar Isaac was cast as Moon Knight.
Yeah.
And I believe they cast Jack Russell as well. The Werewolf by Night, I believe, was cast.
That I don't know.
I can't remember who they had supposedly cast, but I thought I had seen something like they were looking to cast Jack Russell or they had. But yeah, I feel like they're getting more into that horror side of Marvel, which it's still Marvel horror. It's not horror,
Right.
But that more werewolves and vampires and all that, I feel like they're going to expand into that a bit. It'll be cool to see what kind of team ups they put together.
Yeah, so I'm looking up Black Knight and what teams he's been on, and it says he's been on the Avengers, the Defenders, Euroforce, Excalibur, Heroes for Hire, Holy Guard, Legion of the Unliving, Masters of Evil, MI13, Savage Avengers, Ultra Force, and West Coast Ultimates.
I actually think it might have been the MI13 thing.
Is where him and Blade cross paths.
I believe so.
Let me click on it and see if it tells me who the hell's in this team.
While they're checking stuff out, Josh, you got anything to add for this post-credit scene?
Well, I mean, for context, if you're listening to the show, you probably, yes, did watch the movie, but remember right towards the ending, before the movie closes out, Dane's character, the character of Dane, Kit Harington's character, comes back in contact with Cersei, and right before the sky opens up and we see that fake Galactus thing that we thought it was, but it was really her airship again. He makes mention to Cersei about having looked into his family history a bit more. And
troubled family history or something like that.
Right. It was one of those classic moments like, I'm just on the verge of telling you a thing, and then a big thing interrupts us. So that's the context of where the scene comes from. This is obviously playing out, some things that he uncovered. I guess I'm fine with it. I was wondering at what point to shoehorn this comment in, so I think now's as good as time as any. I might have made a comment like this, I don't know if it was on the show or at least just personally to people in the past, pretty much after the Phase 3 wrapped up. I said at one point, I'm so happy to start over. I'm looking forward to not having any idea what the plan is and what the end goal is, what they're working toward.
Right.
The speculation is fun again, and that's one thing, but we're 3 movies into a new beginning now, and I have no idea what the hell to expect. I don't know where they're going. I don't know what anything means. I don't know what the broader purpose is, and I love it. And I harken back to the first, the most people, and there's still a large chunk of people who still never saw The Incredible Hulk. A lot of people literally skipped that movie. Even in the past, they never went back.
Because it's not on Disney Plus.
Well, and then, And I mean, in the intervening years, a lot of people never went back after Avengers to see the Edward Norton version, which is part of the MCU.
Yeah.
So in reality, you got Iron Man, and then you didn't get anything for 2 whole years. The MCU was not a thing. You had Iron Man, you waited 2 years to get a sequel to that one solo movie. Then you waited another year to get Thor and Captain America, then another year to get Avengers. You were in for a 4 to 5 year ride, spaced out a lot more before even the semblance of a patchwork was evident.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm ready for that again. Like I'm okay with that, and with the whole Black Knight issue, Blade. Where do they all fit in? What's going to happen? What are they? I have no clue.
Yeah.
I don't. Whatever. Like you said, like sort of with the Eternals, I didn't know jack shit going in. I assumed whatever they want me to learn, they will present to me, and I'm just along for the ride, and I'm good with that.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
I don't think they can ever capture that same thing again of it all starting.
Not entirely.
Of the whole thing starting, where this is coming from nothing. This is something we have wanted our whole lives, our generation specifically. We grew up as kids with this stuff, and we were coming into adulthood on our own as this was starting. You know, and I don't think they're ever going to capture that again with it all starting at once, where we saw so many shitty comic book movies made for so many years. And, you'd get a spare good one here or there, but so many of them sucked. We had to see Batman and Robin get made.
For a deep dive of discussion on said shitty movies, see our Rewind Theater past and future catalog.
If the wheel keeps going the way it's going, we'll probably keep having that discussion.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think we'll ever get that same kind of momentum and same kind of feeling that we got when we found out, like, holy shit, they're actually going to make an Avengers movie. And then seeing them do it and actually do it amazing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, that feeling of, like, this is seeming like this is going to be really good. And then you get to the Avengers movie and holy shit, it was amazing. I don't think they're ever going to hit that build again. Just like, I feel like they can hit the build toward Infinity War and Endgame again. But I don't think we're going to get that build to the first Avengers movie.
No,
ever again.
Probably not. And that's fair, because this isn't going to exist in a vacuum. But probably, if I had to think back on it, at the least, from, say, Guardians of the Galaxy or Age of Ultron, the last 4 to 5 years of the first couple waves, okay, they're establishing this thing with Infinity Stones, and periodically, me as a big comic reader, I'm picking up snippets of information through conversation and reading stuff online and just learning, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, well, eventually we're getting to point X. I'm in a twilight period where I don't know where the hell point X is whatsoever, and I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I feel like right now there's about probably 4 or 5 different point X's out there that they're heading towards.
Right, could be.
And which one's the big one versus which one's the Ultron.
Yeah.
Which one's the short term and which one's the long term, who knows?
Right, and for me, I think Phase 3, you still got several new solo movies. You got introduced to Black Panther, Doctor Strange, Captain Marvel. They brought Spider-Man in, right? But like, Shang-Chi blew me away, admittedly. Like, I really, really like Shang-Chi. And I think I will grow to like this quite a bit as well. Again, like, I think a second and third viewing is only going to improve this for me. So I'm looking forward to Spider-Man next month. I'm looking forward to a Doctor Strange sequel and whatever, television series interconnected with all this that we get and whatnot. But just keep giving me new, whatever you want to create, and don't let me see where the breadcrumbs are leading. Keep doing it.
Andy, do you have something to add? I feel like you were going to chime in with something there for a little bit.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell you that Mike is correct. It is the MI13 team where Black Knight and Blade. Says the current core members of the team are Wisdom, Captain Britain, the Black Knight, Spitfire, Excalibur, and Blade.
current? Like they still make this today?
Well, I mean, it says major story arcs, and I guess the current team for Secret Invasion was those guys.
Okay, so when the last time they appeared.
It says their most recent. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird team. So
Yeah, it's a weird team.
the team most recently battled Dracula. It says. So
Can't wait till we get Dracula in the MCU.
This composer.
That's how Blade was introduced into the Marvel.
That's
Literally a cover of him throwing stakes at Dracula.
the composer for this movie did the Luke Evans Dracula Untold movie as well.
that movie was okay.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
It could have been better.
I think
Yeah, I was looking forward to it, and then it was just kind of like it underperformed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
before this movie actually kicked off in the theater, we were shown the trailer for Morbius, and I can't
Same.
because I've seen it online that someone suggested this, and it just irritates the shit out of me with all the Sony crap going on. But like because that's a Sony movie, it's like it would have been great to have a Morbius movie involved with Blade. Like this should have been the introduction to Blade and Morbius. You could have had them fight each other in somebody's movie. But because Morbius is Sony and Blade is MCU, we may never get that. And it just feels like such a missed opportunity already that I don't know.
I feel like I've just ignored the Morbius stuff because it's Sony. Because
Yeah.
I'm just like, nope, I'm not entertaining this crap, just like the Carnage thing, and it's like, nope.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see what happens in the next couple of years. I feel like it all might just blend together at some point, but that's a discussion for another time.
Could.
Anything else for the Black Knight and Blade-ish post-credit scene?
Only that I'm very excited, and I hope that the Black Knight isn't one of those characters that only appears in other people's movies.
Yeah.
You know, like
I think-
Widow. Black Widow was only in other people's movies until very most recently.
Yeah.
I think Black Knight probably plays best to a series, or to, you know, I feel like almost something akin to what Netflix did with the Defenders, where we get a Moon Knight series, we get a Blade series, we get a Black Knight series, we get a whoever else series, and it kind of comes together into their own tie-in to bring them into the bigger universe as a team.
I think Blade's confirmed to be a movie, right? We're not getting a series, right? We're getting a movie,
Right.
Blade.
Right.
Okay, well, yeah, that makes sense because it's Blade, but still,
The others could
I
get
could-
maybe small series, and even after his feature, he then appears on
Right.
a series with them.
They still haven't done a very good. They've done it a few times now where they've taken the movie stars and created shows from them, but they have yet to do a good job of starting a character in a show and bringing it to movie.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
we're gonna get that with Kamala Khan,
But they didn't do a good job of that at all.
because they never came to the movie, is what he's saying. Like, we never got Quake in the MCU.
Right.
So, but Kamala Khan, I think, is going to be the one where we're going to see that first, where she's going to be in her own Miss Marvel series. She's going to be in the Marvels. And I think that's probably the first time we're going to get them create a character and then bring them in to the movies. Unless She-Hulk gets brought into a movie before she does. Which She-Hulk could appear anywhere.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like that. She could just turn up somewhere. We don't know.
Anything else for the credits, or we'll do ratings and wrap it up? Nothing? Okay. So out of 10, we'll go around the horn. Andy, we'll start with you. Rating out of 10, what do you give it?
I'm gonna give it a 6.
Okay. Elaborate a little bit, or?
I felt like I came out of the movie with way more questions than I did have answers, and that irritates me.
Okay.
I also didn't see it until last night, so I guess I haven't had a lot of gestation period on it.
Gotcha.
I also think this, like Josh has said, movie would benefit from a second viewing.
Okay. That's fair. Mike, out of 10, what do you give it?
I'm gonna give it an 8. I feel like it was good. I feel like there's a lot there to go on. I just don't feel like there's anything exceptional
Okay.
about this movie for me. It like I don't feel like this is gonna ever be a part of my like top 10 Marvel movies or anything. Like I feel like it's really solid.
It's a good median MCU movie in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah, like it's right there. It's a good spot. Does its job and got me excited to see what comes next.
Fair.
But I don't feel like it's very rewatchable personally.
Okay. Gotcha.
Just I feel like it's I don't know. I'm much more likely to rewatch Shang-Chi over and over and over again, and this maybe once or twice here or there.
Josh, what do you give it a 10?
I'm gonna start with a 6.5 to a 7. And it's not because I think anything was exceptionally bad. I'm just giving myself room to potentially bump it up after another viewing or two.
Okay.
And I think the same thing. I think it does a lot of things really well. And I think it is on its own, it's a pretty good film. In the pantheon of MCU movies, it doesn't break past many of them for any particular reason. It didn't. There's not one or two things that I would point to that said it did this so much better than these 4 other MCU entries. Right?
Okay.
So it's why it's maybe not coming off higher, but I by no means disliked it.
Okay. I think I'm falling in it. I thought I wanted to give it a 9, and then I started to think that I don't remember. I'm trying to remember back, because now since we don't keep like a running list of everything we've ever rated, I don't remember what I gave Shang-Chi, and I'm starting to think I maybe gave it a 9. So I like Shang-Chi more, so I'm going to bump this down to like 8.75 and hope that I'm right in there. If I gave Shang-Chi an 8.5, I'll be real mad that I rated this just above that, because it should be the other way around. But I think the story is kind of like formulaic, I guess, a little bit compared to other Marvel movies. Like Andy said, it sort of does the same thing as some other ones as far as like flashbacks and the way they present the story to you. But I do think that the way it's directed, I think, is unique enough that it feels different and fresh to me. I really hope that they keep Chloe Zhao either in this franchise or get her direct to another movie, because I'd like to see what else she does.
Mm-hmm.
And there, again, there's something about, like, I keep replaying a lot of the fight scenes in my mind that I just think they're directed so well, and it's something that like, coming off of Shang-Chi, I'm like, man, these fight scenes, you couldn't get better than these fight scenes. And I'm not saying these are better, but I think they fit in a nice little niche as far as compared to other Marvel movies, that they still feel like they do something different to me. And like I said, just the way they're shot and edited does not give me a headache compared to like other movies that I've seen, and the way they get you right into the action and make you feel like you're in there when all this shit's going down. So I really appreciate all of that and what they try to do there. But yeah, I guess that's it for Eternals for us. Next episode for us, whether that's next week or 2 weeks, I'm not quite sure where we're going to fall, but we'll most likely be recording our next Rewind Theater episode for the next Turtles movie, TMNT, from 2007. Which apparently, when I went to look up this name on IMDb to try to find out what year it came out, IMDb changed the name to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4 Immortal. So I don't know. Yes. I typed in TMNT and got a bunch of results that were saying like video games and TV shows, and I'm like, this is not any of it. But at the top of the list, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4 Immortal from 2007. You click on that name and it shows you the poster for that movie.
What?
So
that was
just
never
in
its
case,
name.
no, it's not. But just in case they changed it without
makes
anybody
sense,
knowing,
but it also doesn't make sense.
Yes, I get the argument here. But for anyone out there that wants to watch this movie with us and cannot find it under what is originally titled TMNT, if you find it other Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4 Immortal, that should be the movie. 2007 was the year, so
I feel like we had the same issue with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2.
yeah, the Turtle
We
in
all
Time
thought it had the
subtitle that was or wasn't there or some shit. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
like
was
the
always
Secret of the Ooze. Or no, it was Turtles in Time. You're right.
for
It was the
3.
third
'Cause they're-
one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was.
three.
Yeah, that was the
Okay,
one
I
that
was
we
gonna say,
thought
I
had the subtitle, but it didn't. But if you look at some websites, it actually showed you a poster of it saying Turtles 3,
Right.
Turtles in Time. So
Well, that was like a
it's
tie-in
like,
with like Super Nintendo, wasn't it? Like
Turtles
the-
in Time was the Super Nintendo game. Yes.
But
Yeah.
but it had nothing to do, like the story of the game had nothing to do with the story of the movie.
Yeah, it would have been so much better if it did. Such.
So yeah, I guess the Turtles titles have a very complicated history, and you may or may not be able to find what you're looking for. So just keep an eye out for that.
So maybe if Ian accidentally mixes something up and watches something different, maybe there's a chance it might be something else he'll enjoy more. I don't know.
No, that's just going to be an excuse for him to never come back because now Turtles has shamed him again to watching the wrong movie, and it's the Turtles' fault.
I feel like
Not
he's gonna
his.
like this one. I feel like he's gonna like it.
We keep saying that, but we'll, I
Did we
we'll see
keep
how it
saying
goes.
that?
I feel like we've said that
I
this
feel like
is the
the
one.
original Turtles movies get worse as you go, and then this kind of brings it back.
That's what I mean. I feel like this is the one that might be able to get him back. If he hates this one still, the Michael Bay ones he's definitely going to love because there's nothing else and he has to.
It's just explosions.
Yeah. All right. So if you've enjoyed the show, please support us, leave a 5-star rating and review. Give us a share on social media. Be sure to subscribe or follow the show to keep up with us. We're on Spotify, iTunes, Google, Anchor, Stitcher, hopefully anywhere you can listen to podcasts, you can find us. Check us out on Facebook. Search Bry Guy and the Super Friends or go to facebook.com/Bry Guy Super Friends. You can send us questions, comments, topics, suggestions, any of that stuff there. Try to send me an email, bryguysuperfriends@gmail.com. It's probably been 7-8 months. I lost track of the last time I checked it, but I'll get there eventually. Hit us up on Twitter @BGSuperFriends. That I will see. Feel free to follow me on Twitch @Jedi Bry Guy. That's Jedi with an I, Bry with a Y.
Spell your name with
Whenever
a Y? That's
we
so
decide
hot.
to do another live show, we'll do it there. This is currently episode 243, so we're getting closer to 250. Again, I've teased it. We will most likely try to plan some other live episode on Twitch. I will keep you posted when we get closer to sort of what we're doing, what date we're looking at, what the topics will be. So keep an eye on the socials for when we nail some stuff down and have a clear idea of how we kind of want to do it. But yeah, we'll keep you posted. On behalf of Andy, Josh, Mike, and myself, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
woo-ha!